Every single opportunity that I have had has come from something that I made. Making things makes things happen.
Today on the pod,
Matt Rodin,
actor,
creative,
marketer,
consultant,
and like dog dad, like I'm obsessed with my dog. Do you know what I mean?
Hi, welcome.
Hello, welcome back to Glass Slipping.
My name's Keaton.
I'm Peter.
I'm Matt.
Yeah, this is our iconic guest, Matt Rodin.
Oh my God. Put that in front of my name forever. And
Iconic
ever,
guest.
Yes.
We're so happy to have you.
I'm so honored.
Thank you for coming all the way out to deep Brooklyn
Oh
for us.
This is not deep Brooklyn.
I actually used to live in deep Brooklyn,
Yeah,
and I
let's be
forget
honest.
that now I'm like, I'm actually not in deep
this
Brooklyn.
is
The
not
funny
deep
thing
Brooklyn.
about used to live in deep Brooklyn, we were 10 minutes further that way. It
Yeah,
took
but
me
it's-
12 minutes to get
But
here.
to be fair, the train situation in our old place,
Worse.
far worse.
Having
Takes
to rely
far
on like the
longer.
2-5, not fun.
Yeah,
And
don't
this
tell
is
people
great.
where we live, Peter. Don't dox me on the
Where
internet.
you used to live?
Yeah, but people are crazy.
This is where we used to live.
People are crazy.
Don't you love how this podcast has started?
It feels right.
There's absolutely no structure to this podcast whatsoever.
I feel like that's where we're at now with podcasts, though. Is like I feel like people that do use structure, I'm like, this feels dated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're like you really just want to hear people yap for an hour, and you want to feel
honey, let me tell
and
you.
I'll tell you what.
what we realized earlier this week, we were talking about, and what we've realized with our first couple guests for this season is the people we want on this podcast and the people best suited for this podcast are craft-obsessed people who like to yap. And I feel like you were the perfect
Intersection.
That
of
is so real. That is very me. Is craft obsessed, but like fucking only wants to talk.
exclusively
like,
talking
yes,
all the time.
Talking all the damn time.
I also feel like we only had like one other. Oh no, I guess that's not true. We've had some theater people on here. It's a lot of
we've had a
music
couple.
people, but we've had some theater people on here, and occasionally what will happen is people feel, I think, fearful about talking about their careers because there's just like a lot of stigma, I think.
Yeah, people don't want to bite the hand that feeds them, or they think, oh, I could work for that company again. And we've had to navigate around
a
and
very
edit
large.
around.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't do that. I think it's 2025, the year of our Lord, and like
Absolutely.
I just feel like I get it. I also just feel like it's time to have the conversations, and like I don't think anyone's like actually paying attention to like what I'm fucking saying, and I'm also not gonna shit on anybody because
Totally.
if I'm gonna preach that I believe in like the non-binary nature of the world, then like that means that everything has nuance, which means that like
Absolutely.
nothing is just bad or just good.
Yeah.
Of
And
course.
so I am able to like take a wide enough perspective on everything to be able to respect like
to be able to see the nuance in
that
something
it's, like,
in
it's not-
an
not-
entire
no,
industry.
Right, exactly.
I think you also do enough things
My
where
ass
like I
ouching.
don't necessarily think that you get taken in by the scarcity mindset that a lot of actors will get into because there are so few jobs and they don't. I don't know. I think that you see a difference between people who create for themselves and who build things out for themselves.
I
Like a
also feel
different
like
kind of
you've-
confidence to be able to just talk about things as they are, as opposed to, I think some actors can get into needing to be a little more docile or a little less
because they're only in one lane.
Yeah, and
I
they're
feel
very
like you've
afraid.
struck a really nice balance, though, of like, I feel like your theater career and then your career outside of theater, be it like on the internet or otherwise, has been so nicely balanced that I feel like because you have that, you don't feel the scarcity mindset doesn't like rule you in the same way.
No, I mean,
Is that true?
Yes, yes, and I would say first of all, thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Because I think that ultimately has been my goal since I moved to the city. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I got here 10 years ago and I started working as an intern at 54 Below, not because I thought it would get me acting jobs, but because I was like, I want to be in and around the industry, and I know from the get that like acting is not going to be the only thing that I
also think though
do.
that's like that. I think that takes a lot of like self-awareness because I am not the kind of person that could work in and around something that I wasn't actively a part of because I have far too much pride.
I will tell you, it's hard.
But,
which
like-
is why I left Broadway.com. Like
Yeah.
I did it and I ended up there for a year and a half. Like it's really
and I'm like, I'm not proud
challenging.
of that. Like, I truly wish that I was able to humble myself enough to do that
It's
because
hard.
I think that it's really beautiful when people love something so much to just want to be around it all the time, regardless of like their place in it. I don't know if I couldn't do it, but I would have a very hard time doing it. So that already is impressive to me that you
I
were able to do
appreciate
that
that.
right when you got here.
And I will say that like then booking the tour,
Right.
doing the company tour, and then honestly rent before that at Paper Mill, like both of those things were so validating
Of course.
internally for me to be like, right, like I am a legitimate part of this business
Yes.
in this particular way because
you've made a name for yourself otherwise.
and I don't even know, I wouldn't even call it that. It's just like I feel like I have like proven myself.
You carved out a space for yourself.
My first impression of you was
Broadway,
probably. Yeah, you and Reed, who have now become like two dear friends of mine, which
it's
is
just
so
funny because sometimes I forget that those things existed, and also like
we thought it was so funny.
I talk to people and some people will remember it and be like, wait, that's you, and then some people be like, I've never heard of that in my entire life, and I'm like, that's totally fine.
Well, that's so funny too, though, that people probably meet you in like queer or theater spaces, and then they're like, wait, Broadway, like,
yes,
because it's one thing if you meet Reed.
Yes.
Reed is
that's
like
Reed.
the character he's playing in Broadway in a
Yeah.
way that you are just.
What you're
Shout
saying
out-
is I'm an
shout out
incredible
Reed.
actor. Is what
Incredible
you're
actor.
saying is I'm
Yeah, you
really,
are.
really convincing.
I do
want
want to take a second.
You're
to-
malleable.
Because you have been such a chameleon in the different stuff you've done in New York, to give our audience a little context
Yes.
of the different roles
Things.
you've played, like not only on stage but
Okay.
in
But off, yeah.
yeah, because
A quick.
Yeah. Okay. Let me do the brief. Okay, so
Yeah,
the
yeah.
brief is moved to New York City. I went to school for musical theater, went to Boston Conservatory. While I was in school, I was doing poster design, lighting design, directing, producing.
Graphic design is your passion.
Which I do love graphic design. I was also the vice president of student government, so I was like planning like prom and everything. So I was
Okay.
super involved in that, really involved in that. And then I got to the city. I started working at 54 Below, which is a venue that's like a cabaret venue here in the city. I did that. I have done a couple regional gigs like in that 10 years. But I went from 54 Below, and then I was doing like freelance, like video and photo editing stuff for people. That's sort of been a consistent because of like the community that I have. That there's always actors like looking to make like a dance video or something.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
always been a thing, as you know. And then I started making videos on YouTube, which I guess I'd always been doing, but then I like really went all in. Nobody watched. Thank God. Thank God.
I will say I was watching.
Thank God. Honestly,
I was watching.
Thank God no one watched. But I started making videos like promoting those. I started making social videos promoting the YouTube channel. That turned into me getting doing red carpets for Broadway opening nights at Playbill.
Well, and I just want to say, like, the Broadway Red Carpets was just you. I remember you telling this story maybe on Matt Rodin Radio era.
Oh my God.
Of you literally just like bought a mic from B&H or whatever, showed up, filmed,
God.
returned the mic,
Yes.
doing that. Like,
It's
again,
iconic.
when you talk about like people
Young,
out here
scrappy,
making
hungry.
content on
Yeah,
their own,
that really is.
it wasn't like Broadway.com being like, oh, we're looking for someone to do this. You were like,
No!
here's the content I
Wait,
made.
that's
So
hysterical.
how about I was desperately trying to get in touch with every single like Broadway outlet, which is insane because that's like 3. And I was 23, like I couldn't get in touch with anybody. And so I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to like
I'm gonna
go
do it myself.
Yeah. So I went and I bought a mic at Guitar Center.
There you go.
Iconic.
I had my friend Christian come and film me out. It was the opening night of Something Rotten, which was a Broadway musical that was happening at the St. James. I couldn't get a press pass because, again, no one responded to me. So I stood outside the Helen Hayes, which was next door, and I interviewed like random strangers about like Shakespeare. And I had my friend Christian film me. That video got seen by someone that I met while I was working at 54 Below, who was working at Playbill. He showed it to his editor-in-chief, and they were like, oh, you should come do this for us. Because, again, you have to think, this is 2016. Like, social video was still kind of like budding. We're talking
Yeah,
about
you were
Facebook
kind of the
video.
only person doing that for a long time
Well,
in like a
Playbill
Broadway
and
sphere.
Broadway.com were doing some.
Well, they
like,
would do the
Broadway.com
like
had
Broadway.com
vlogs.
they had the
vlogs,
backstage
yeah.
cut. I remember when I was in high school watching the like Spring Awakening Broadway.com
of course, of
vlogs.
Those
or
were
whatever.
classic. I
course.
wanted to have one of those
So bad.
bad.
You will. One day you will.
Oh, God.
Of course. I mean, listen, and I agree, like, again, like I was so influenced by that stuff and felt like there was a space in the market. And I remember saying like, once I did that first video on my own completely, I was like, I think that there's something here. Because also like Billy on the Street was like kind of popping off a
Yeah.
little bit. And I was like, oh, that angle is actually like cool and interesting.
Yeah, it's funny.
And so I ended up doing that at Playbill for a period of time. And then that was like only like 6 months. And then Paul from Broadway.com, who's the editor-in-chief of Broadway.com, basically poached me and was like,
I like him.
He's
a nice
he's
guy.
a good guy.
Yeah.
He was like, I will pay you more than they're paying you, which, like, to be completely transparent, I was making like $100 a video at Playbill,
Oh shit.
which is insane.
That's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, especially because I would do the video, we would
Edit
shoot
it.
it. I would pull an all-nighter and edit it because it
And get
needed
it
to be up
done.
the
Yeah,
next
the next
morning,
day.
which also is like, no, it didn't.
That's such 23-year-old shit though, because for so
No,
many people
you'd be
I worked
like,
with, people
"Fuck
wouldn't even
no."
ask me to have it out the next day.
Yes.
And I remember I'd be like, "Here's your video," and they'd be like, "What?"
And granted-
And again, they're paying me like 200
Yes,
to
and
500
granted,
bucks.
I also would get excited. Like
Yeah,
I was
of course.
excited to do it.
You
right?
enjoyed doing it, which is
I
a
also know
plus.
this about you, that I feel like if you are excited about an edit, then you're gonna do it that day.
I absolutely will.
Like I
That's my
remember that about
hyperfixation.
many different shits
Yes.
that we've done,
Yep,
where you're
yep.
like, "Oh my god, I
That's-
have to do this now."
I will turn around. And honestly, the truth is also I know myself well enough to know that like if I'm energized about something, if I don't act on that thing
While
like,
it's happening.
I am
Yeah.
going to. It's going to be gone, and then I'm
That's
not.
Jamie.
And then I'm not going to want to do it.
Jamie
I'm
does
not
all of
gonna
our
have any
music
interest.
videos, and sometimes randomly, like after we've done a full like 12-hour day of shooting, she'll send a string out of the entire video at like 6:00 in the morning, and I was like, "You haven't. I know you
But
haven't."
that's the way
slept."
I have to do that because if I'm like in that zone already and I'm excited and I'm energized, I'm telling you because if I don't, I will not do it, and I
Yeah.
will like start putting it off and off and off and off and off, and then the momentum, whatever momentum I had,
You lose it.
I lose it.
Well, and that's hard too when the check on the other end's $100. Trying to regain momentum
Is impossible.
impossible.
Yeah.
So but what was nice when I went to Broadway.com was that Paul was like, well, I can give you an editor. Like, you don't even need to edit the videos. That lasted about like 2 weeks
And
because
then
I
you
was like,
started
I like editing these videos. And also the
Yeah.
pace. What was good about those videos
The
wasn't
style you'd created.
Yeah, it was the pacing and the tempo. Like, that's such a big part of it. So I did that for a while. I ended up getting a full-time job at Broadway.com because Paul was like, do you want to like work here as a producer? And I was like, sure, I would love a salary. That sounds interesting to me.
Yeah.
In the industry that I'm interested in being a part of.
Right.
I wasn't getting a lot of acting jobs, but I was like, this seems like adjacent enough, and who knows what this will lead to. So I was there for a year and a half. It was awesome. It was really hard to be around it and not be in it, and interviewing people that I was like, I want to be on the other side of the carpet. And then, yeah, I mean, throughout that time, I worked with this guy, Simon Sinek, for a minute, who wrote that book, Start With Why. I worked as a content producer and consultant for Soul Cycle.
Oh, nice. I
Because I
didn't know
started
that.
working at the front desk at 63rd and Lex, and then ended up like we did like a Snapchat takeover, and they liked it so much they were like, you should come talk to us. And then I ended up like becoming a producer for them, which was great.
That's
That
like
rocks.
classic for you.
Very me. Very
Very you,
me.
the
And
bitch,
and
like-
I was there for like I was there for like 2 months, and that shit is on my website. I'm like, Soul
Soul
Cycle.
Cycle.
Absolutely,
100%.
bitch. Like,
I
sold.
taught at Flywheel, so a direct competitor.
Yes,
but
yes. Oh my god,
yeah.
Flywheel.
I know. Rest in
RIP.
peace.
Yes,
Rest in
RIP.
full peace.
So yeah, I've been like everywhere. I also did like event planning and like weddings and bar mitzvahs. Like I really have covered the gamut. And then I was freelancing my face off. And then not last summer, I guess 2 summers ago, summer 2023, we left for the pandemic. I was in Arizona at my parents' place for the pandemic. I ended up working full-time for that guy, Simon, running his entire marketing department, which was
Wow.
really
Well, he is like a media enterprise in himself.
which was really so educational and like really cool and really hard. And then we came back to the city, and I decided to like walk away from that because I wanted to be like back in the industry. I ended up getting after like a year of basically freelancing, I got Rent at Paper Mill, which was really wonderful, which is a theater in New Jersey, this like regional theater in New Jersey, playing Roger. And then while I was in that show, I booked the national tour of Company, which is a Stephen Sondheim musical. That's like it's like lesser known than like, Into the Woods or Sweeney Todd.
Well, and when did you do Hedwig? Was that right before the pandemic?
Yeah, Hedwig was
didn't know you did Hedwig.
2019. That was like 2020.
Well, because you had been performing in New York, but you were doing it again on a very Matt Rodin way. You were producing like the Urban Campfires.
That's right. I
and-
forgot.
Yeah,
Oh my
Urban
God, I
Campfire.
completely forgot about Urban Campfire too. I
This
also
is what
had
I
that.
love about
Thank
you, though.
you.
Is like
Thank you.
the eras of you're like me in that like. If you go through my eras in New York,
Dude, the eras
I
are
have
wild.
tried a little bit of everything.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, I did release music. I did that,
that's
whatever
right.
random
Yeah.
shit.
That's right.
And
Right, I recorded a live album.
yeah,
I
like
did that too.
But so Matt was doing Urban Campfire. Could you just talk about what Urban Campfire was?
so-
Because
oh my
I loved
God.
Urban Campfire,
Oh my
especially.
I never fucking went. I'm such a loser.
So-
I loved
Yeah,
Urban
so
Campfire.
Urban Campfire was this concept that I had that I had I loved like So Far Sounds. I was a big fan of theirs, but I'm also like a spiritual girly, and I also went to an all boys overnight camp for like 12 years of my life.
Where are you from originally?
Chicago, outside
Oh,
Chicago.
okay. So that you went in Wisconsin.
Northwoods of Wisconsin, and I loved camp and I loved Campfire, and which was like we did every week. And so I was like, I want to do this in the city, and so I started throwing these urban campfires, which basically were like I would invite 2 guest artists to play songs. We would meditate. I would like
Yeah, it
read-
was like woo woo for sure, but it was great.
yeah, it was like woo woo so far.
It was like
Woo woo so
community,
far.
like
It was.
and the
That's
entire
awesome.
time Matt would come out, play guitar, was kind of like the host.
Yeah.
Would also sing.
Yeah, I would play original songs. And honestly, the reason I started doing it, to be completely transparent, the reason I started doing it was because I wanted to be writing more music. I wanted to be playing and singing more. And I was like, I need a reason to do that. And Urban Campfire was like, oh, it was like I was hacking myself to be like, or like hacking the system to be like, great, well, I have to show up every single month with something new.
Yeah.
Because I can't be playing the same exact songs every month. So I'm going to force myself to write songs.
Yeah.
By throwing this event, and it worked. And I threw, I think we did it for like a year.
Yeah.
And then I ended up recording a live album of a lot of the songs that I wrote because of Urban Campfire. Yeah, what a wild era. I totally forgot about
No,
that.
I love the
That's-
Urban
that
Campfire
was a
stuff,
great-
especially because I had just moved to New York, so I feel like that and Float were both my once a month. I'm gonna
Community
see a bunch of
builders.
people.
It was.
Community builders
It
literally
was.
made so many
It was
friends.
like that's right. We were all going to like Float and Campfire. That was like the good, 2018, 2019.
I know
that was a good,
that era was really.
I'm
quite
tired now. I'm
something.
too tired to do that. Now I'm like, I just want to sit at home.
Same.
Yeah, but I've done. I mean, I've touched so many parts and pieces, and then and I will say, like, obviously one of my dreams has always been to like go on a national tour, or be on Broadway or whatever, and getting to go on tour was such a dream come true. Especially because I have to say, like, it honestly feels to me when I get to do an acting job, it feels like a paid vacation.
Totally.
Like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do that. And tour is especially like that because literally, like, the only thing you're worrying about or you're thinking about is, like, where am I eating breakfast? What time do I need to be at the theater? Like, those are literally the only things I would think about is, like, food and time. And other than that, I had nothing to worry about. And it was great. And then a wonderful, wonderful year, like very hard, but really, really an incredible experience seeing the country, working with people that I love, doing a show that I love, playing a role that was really cool and exciting. Matt Doyle won a Tony for that role. So like people were excited about me doing that role. Again, validating for me as a performer to be like, no, I am legitimate in this industry. I do have something to offer when it comes to being on this side rather than just being in the press side. And then I got back in October and it was fucking dark. It was like, I think, I mean, if we're going to like talk about it on a neuroscience level, like there's a level of dopamine that I get from being in a theater every single day. Forget about like the audience in the show, but like just being in a theater satisfies something in me, brings me a certain amount of joy.
Well, and then the audience and the workout and everything else that comes out of doing the performance is its own huge dopamine.
Yes. And then
Bump.
to come back to the
Yeah.
city and have nothing. My system was in shock. The whiplash was just insane.
I really get it.
It was really, and I knew that it would be hard, but I didn't know it would be that hard.
Yeah.
And
It's something else.
yeah, and it was October and all this freelance stuff that I've been doing pre-pandemic, I was reaching out to people and everyone's like, in the new year. And it's like,
It's October.
It's October. Like, there's 3
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
So it was tough. And I ended up getting a retail job at Warby Parker because I was
Slay.
like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do right
I have
now.
a retail job. It
And-
sucks.
And I will tell you, like, it was, I was not for me. I
it
did a
sucks.
month and I was like, great, adios. Like, I helped you through the
Thanks.
holidays. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I have too many skills and abilities
Yeah.
that I can like monetize in some way. Like, I have to be able to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But great experience. Like, loved the people. Got a free pair of glasses. Like, shout out, big fan. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Warby. And yeah, and then I the thing that sort of is like the through line of my like career in the city is that every opportunity that I have had, every single one has come from something that I made. 100%. There is not one thing. The National Tour Company, my agent signed me. The agent that submitted me for that job signed me because she met me on the carpet, on red carpets at Broadway opening nights, interviewing her clients.
Wow.
Which never would have happened if I wasn't doing that at Playbill,
You
which
could
wouldn't have
just
happened if I made that video.
Do it yourself.
Right. So like I can trace back every single opportunity that I've had to something that I
did
have
yourself.
made.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I was sitting I was having coffee with friends in November and December when I got back, and I was just like, what do I do? I've played in so many spaces, and one of the spaces that I hadn't played in was email. I was like, this seems like something cool and fun, and like I'm again interested in design, and I'm such an ADHD girly that I just like want to try new things all the time. And I was like, let me see what email is like, and I like the idea of having to show up every week. I've had a podcast for 5 years that was really inundating, and it's, as you guys know, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
And the email felt like more manageable for a single person to do.
Just like a newsletter every week or something.
Every week. And again, I was having these conversations with people about the industry. When I was on tour, the conversations that I had the most were the cast complaining about the marketing of the show.
Oh, interesting.
Which I understood.
Yeah.
And also,
am I out of the loop? What was the issue with the marketing?
I'm going to tell you in a second.
Okay.
Also, if I'm like pivoting too hard, just
no. Oh my God,
no.
This is
but
perfect.
I also think like it's not just casts. Like I have a friend who is a lower level producer on a current Broadway show. I'm not going to shout out which show.
Drop
but he
the
is
name.
Like, what the fuck is happening with the marketing right now? And like they
I'm so out of this loop. I love to get the tea.
So here's the situation is this. There's actors. So as actors, we care about the piece, and we care about people coming to see the piece.
Yeah.
So we naturally have an investment in how the show gets sold, and if the show gets sold.
Yeah.
So people were complaining about the marketing, which, like, for better or for worse, whatever, like, complaining doesn't do anything. The other piece is most actors don't know how the marketing even works.
Right.
And because I've been in that world,
right,
and I've worked with the marketing companies, the agencies,
and
I've worked with the press, and yes, I like understand the structures of how those companies work. I understand the marketing in a way that most actors don't.
Right.
And I was like, that seems like an opportunity for education, for like getting people that are in our world on the actor side or the artist and creator side to understand like how the marketing structures work. The other piece was that I was going to all of these regional houses around the country, and I was having these conversations with their marketing departments because I was doing interviews at local news stations, whatever. So I was meeting their marketing teams at all these regional houses. And they were telling me the things that they were struggling with, which mostly was like that they had lots of creative ideas, but were struggling with the people above them in the companies, in their whatever respective market they were in. And again, similarly, like they knew what they wanted to do. They knew what would work. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they see what's going on.
Right.
But the people above them don't really have any idea. Again, another opportunity for education and just saying like, hey, here are the things that are working. We can be doing more of them. And again, like I see all that. I'm aware of all these things. All this to say, like, I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to like do now that I'm back in the city? And as I was having these conversations, and as you can see, like I get very energized by talking about this stuff.
Sure, yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe this is the intersection of all of the experiences that I've had since I moved to New York.
Yeah.
And maybe there's something here that can ultimately, to be completely transparent, generate me an income.
Money, yeah.
Because my dream is to be able to sustain myself as a creator, as a business, and then be able to do acting jobs like again as like paid vacation basically.
I feel you because I'm in it's why I feel like we've resonated so much over the years because I feel like we're in the same boat and same pursuit, and it's like same exact pursuit of this podcast where it's like
can this turn into something that's going to generate me enough income that I can do the other things that I want to be able to do.
Yeah. And like how it can be a vehicle for like, again, using your skill set and using the things you understand about
things that you know about
the space, advertising, how to get it in front of people. To do that.
And again, every single opportunity that I have had has come from something that I made. Making things makes things happen.
That is something I so resonate with, and I feel like people get like cagey or like embarrassed maybe of being like I have a friend and I won't say who it is, but I love her. She's so fucking talented, and she had said a bunch of times that after college, like any opportunity that she had was because of the connections that she'd made at school, because she had a really amazing relationship with the faculty. They loved her. She is a fantastic student, but she's also just, I mean, truly she's one of the most talented people I know in my whole life. And she just is one of those people that's like super consistent, always on, she's never going to let you down, that kind of a person. And so for a long time she had this kind of like complex, I think, that she was like, it's only because of my relationship with school. And I was like, no. I was like, you worked your ass off to create those relationships so that things like this would happen. This is not a crutch.
Yes.
This is something that you did on purpose that is working for
Also,
you.
Yes.
nobody does anything for like no reason or not be like if you haven't earned that, like people aren't going to put themselves out
I was
for
like,
you
it's not like just
to
because
recommend you.
these faculty members, I mean, they see 85 kids come through every year. Like this isn't like this isn't like you're not like a charity
No,
case.
and they're not going to seek you out. Like
and they
you're-
don't seek you out. They
right.
fucking hated my ass,
Right.
and they would never give me a good recommendation for good fucking reason. I agree with that. I get it. I was a
yes.
nightmare. So I'm like, this is not for naught. Like you did this.
put in
the effort,
something
and you're
to get
getting
something
something
out.
back for
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
you're not leaning on anything here.
Yeah, it's very easy, I think, to sit back. Easy is maybe not the right word, but it's tempting to sit and hope that some email is going to drop into your inbox that is going to like change your life. And exactly.
It's
It's not going to happen.
It
And maybe
happen.
it will, but like, but
Yeah.
I know that every single opportunity I've had has come from something that I've made. And so I was like, I need to make something, put something out in the world, and who knows what opportunities it will come from that. I can't predict. I don't know. So let me start this newsletter that maybe could turn into consulting jobs. Maybe I can sell ads in this newsletter and make money. Maybe the newsletter itself can be sold to a bigger company. Like
Totally.
I don't know
No,
You
what
could
that
go
looks
exactly
like.
what the
teach
end game
courses
is.
to these regional marketing teams.
Correct.
Or
But
whatever.
you also don't even know. Like I've been telling my friends. One of my friends has been like, "What is the best way to get people to know about my upcoming shows?" I was like, "Build an email list." Like in terms of
Email
getting
is the
information
way.
directly into people's things. Like
I'm telling you right now.
No, I get it.
Email is the way.
it's just another frontier. And
It's the only place you own your audience because otherwise you are at the mercy of algorithms.
we're at the mercy of like TikTok
I
shutting
could probably
down.
tell
or-
you like every email that I've gotten in the last 24 hours, even if it's like spam or like some
How about that?
advertisement.
I also
probably
like
could
there's
tell
some
you.
newsletters that I subscribe to that I fucking love.
Yeah.
That like bring me so much joy every
yeah.
week that I get and I'm like excited to see what's in
I have a
them. I'm
couple like Substacks and newsletters that I just
like,
adore.
okay, so like that to me, look at me. I'm like, but that
Sitting
but
up.
that's,
Type.
but that's the thing that like I think there's some to me. I'm like there's something there.
Absolutely.
And I haven't. And again, I just haven't explored that.
It's so interesting that you say that everything else you're at the mercy of an algorithm because you really are, and you get so pigeonholed so quickly. It's something we talk about all the time. Is like on TikTok, on Instagram, whatever. You get so pigeonholed by what you go viral for the first time or whatever, and it's like you better fucking hope it's not like you like eating a sandwich on the subway.
Also, we spent a lot of time talking about this on our second episode for this season because we talked about the TikTok ban, and it just speaks to the importance of like diversifying the places you can reach your audience. Because if you are at the mercy of this app is shutting down, suddenly all of my income has disappeared. Like I have a lot of sympathy for it, but I'm
Guess
also
what's
like
not
it's
going away?
a little bit your fault.
Guess what's never going away?
TikTok.
Email.
Oh, email. I was like, but
TikTok
also probably
had to,
TikTok.
but email will never. Email's never going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere.
No, never.
And the fact that it's still
Jamie's laughing
here,
at me.
Like it's
TikTok.
TikTok.
I'm like, gotcha.
It's never going anywhere. Yeah, I think that was a wake up call for a lot of people. And again, for me, that I was just like, oh, I actually love writing. I actually enjoy the process of writing, and I am someone that like loves talking about the craft. I'm just an ideas person. I love
it.
like putting ideas together, and this felt like a really natural way to do that. And for me, like, because I'm an ADHD girl, I need some kind of focus.
You're in good company.
Sure.
Don't worry.
In the way that like this, like if the fourth wall, which is the name of the newsletter, gives me like the umbrella, put everything underneath.
I was just like thinking like the fourth wall, just in general, the concept. You're like, if the fourth wall, I'm like, actually slay.
But you know what? But I again that it came out of like just a thought. I mean, I think I probably was talking to GPT about it. That like I was like looking for a name of what this could be, or like I gave it all my interests, and I was like, "What's the name?" And then it said it, and I was like, "That is so good."
It's great.
We'll talk about AI in a second. We can have that conversation. I would love to have that conversation. I
Yeah,
haven't had
please.
that conversation in any public way, and I'm like really excited about it.
I don't talk about AI because it scares me so much.
I get that. I get that. But all this to say that like the newsletter, The Fourth Wall, I've been putting it out for 5 weeks. So as of the time
I must subscribe.
as the time we're recording this, which is we're recording this on January 30th, right? January 30th is today. I put out 5 editions of the newsletter. Within the 5 weeks, I have had truly insane opportunities drop into my lap
That's amazing.
that it is like once again shocking to me.
Yeah.
I like cannot believe. And of course.
Well, in terms of, sorry, you finish your thought.
I was just gonna say, just of course, like as soon as I start putting something out, people start paying attention.
Yep.
Like, and again, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
That I've pushed back on that a little bit because again, we're on year 10 of you being like a consistent content girly in some capacity or other, whether it is a vlog,
Yes.
whether it is
Yeah.
a podcast, like
It's a new medium, so I get it.
So it is not a.
It's not totally new. I understand.
Yeah.
I
It's
But
not even
it's
not
like-
totally new. It is like pretty comparative to most people's experience interfacing with internet marketing, internet content creation in general. Like at max, most people who have a basic understanding it are in like year 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
so
guess
you
that's true.
are many years ahead of that. And also the willingness to say, okay, let me try this space and get excited about email or something else
Yeah.
is not the natural instinct a lot of people have.
I sort of love the concept of just getting excited about email.
I'm not kidding.
I love it.
It something clicked in me where, and I'll be honest, I think it was because I started like watching. I saw some content about people that were making money from email, or I saw that like there were a couple emails in the last like year, 6 months that sold for like tens of millions of dollars to bigger companies, and I was like,
Fuck.
Well, you're
this
a
is
Colin
interesting.
Smear fan too, right?
I love Colin and Samir.
They talk a lot about.
Let me tell you something.
The importance of their
Publish Press is the reason why I started the Fourth Wall.
that published press, or like not only published press, but Colin Smear show was one of the first when I was looking for tangible examples of what we do for this podcast. One of the only ones where I could point to and be like, yes, but it's about YouTubers mostly.
Yes.
And I was like, we can expand on that in a
And I was like,
artist
there's
way.
this published press thing, what they're doing with like covering creator news or talking about stories about creators, it doesn't exist in the space that I'm in, which is theater. Primarily, I try to broaden it a lot and be like entertainment, but I know that like I'm now learning
Primarily
the
theater.
niche. Yeah, and then like
Right.
that's the thing I get excited about. And the more I niche, I'm finding out like the more people are actually interested, which is makes sense, but it also like kind of fucks with my brain a little bit. But the only Broadway newsletter that there really is this thing called the Broadway Briefing, which comes out every morning. It's like a digest of all of the news on Broadway.
And I will say, like, I'm still subscribed to the Broadway Briefing.
too.
I have been since I was in college. But as I've become less and less daily involved in the theater world and need to know about the happenings, it's hard because it's daily. Like,
It's a lot.
really like.
And it's just like news, right? Like
Yeah,
it's not like
it's news coverage.
It is all of the what they can deem like relevant little tidbits of news about the Broadway industry, which if you were trying to break into that industry, really useful, really
and if
good.
you're in it, like it's just good
to learn the
it's
names.
it's nice
like,
to know like what's going on. It's like if you're not sitting on deadline every day, like watching the news alerts come in, like it's a good way to be like, oh, what happened yesterday, or like what shows are opening, or like it's
but
just
it
like
is a hard wash of a lot of information. Like,
Yeah.
and so
it's not so
even just
personable.
getting it daily,
And then
it's tough for me.
can-
Like I used to read it every day, and now I probably will check in
I
on it every
scan
once in a
through
while.
it.
Yeah, I'll scan it, and I'll be like, oh, I know
I'm
someone.
not gonna lie, I've never been subscribed to that. I don't know what that is. And I feel crazy right now because I used to be so fucking tapped in to like theater and Broadway, and I haven't been in like 4 years. And it's really I'm
it's
having a
pretty
crazy
great.
experience
I
right now.
think that I want to talk about that because I think that's like really cool. I just like I find that is really inspiring to me because I
That's
think
very
there's
sweet.
because I think there's a stigma around like this needing to be
Yeah.
the thing, and
Yeah.
and we've been talking about it a little bit, but like being able to give yourself permission to maybe like release or like let go of some of that like grip that we have on like I need to be a part of this, which
No,
like I understand.
I thank God, and like it's the only time I'll ever say this sentence. I thank God for the pandemic for getting me out of that grip. But
We
before
love.
we get
Yeah.
too far off of it, too, you said we're 5 episodes deep now, or
Thank you,
five
thank you,
newsletters
thank you,
deep.
thank you.
How much weekly output is that? Because I know you're also doing clips. You're
Oh my God, yeah.
like what?
I'm figuring it out.
And so do you have a set amount that you're aiming for, and like what does that actually look like in the first 5?
Yeah, so I'm working on that. I'm my whole thing right now, like my main focus right now is developing systems for creating consistent output because my goal is I want to post 2 reels a week, 2 carousels hopefully, and then like 3 or 4 posts on LinkedIn, which by the way,
LinkedIn.
I'm a
Huge
LinkedIn
conversion.
fucking stan.
Peter's a huge LinkedIn.
I'm a
fan.
I was
LinkedIn.
never a LinkedIn person until we started promoting this podcast, and I was like, I need to be in more.
I am a LinkedIn stan. I am obsessed with it. I think especially because the thing I'm writing about is like it is businessy.
No, that's the same how we feel about this podcast, where it's like that is one of the avenues I'm using because I know you can convert people over. And it's about people looking for business specific ideas.
Yeah, and especially because we were talking about like, doing consulting, like that's maybe what this turns into.
Consulting
like
would be so cool.
I do think that like that audience is there.
Yeah, totally.
And it's proven to be true. Like the thing was, I saw a gap in the market. I was like, no one is talking about this in a centralized place. And when I say this, I mean like
marketing.
arts marketing. Like how do audiences, how does art connect with audiences?
And how do we get people in seats?
Across the board too. Yeah. But also like yes, the practical of like, how do we get people in seats? But then if you want to go like woo woo, for me, it's like, what does it actually like mean? Like, how does it happen? Why does it happen? Like, those are the types of things that get me like really jazzed up.
Yeah, like what's connecting with people,
right?
What's not
So it's
connecting with
every
people.
level of it, and I'm finding that like, oh, there was actually a huge community of people on LinkedIn already talking about this stuff.
Interesting.
That I didn't.
Are you
even
on Threads
know.
at all either?
God.
I am, but I just
It's not a great platform, but in terms of people talking about it,
they're there.
really there. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's just my algorithm is tuned to that.
Yeah.
I feel like all I get is people talking about the business of content.
Yeah. So the one thing,
Interesting.
yeah, I mean that's happening everywhere. The thing that I'm finding, especially as I'm starting something new as a one-man band, is that like I am like trying, which is hard, to really, really focus and pick. Like I've decided that like Reels or Instagram and LinkedIn are like my two main platforms.
Instagram's great for
I was
that.
trying to do like Threads and TikTok, and like basically I'm like repurposing Reels for TikTok, which I think is fine.
you have to.
But I'm
They do better.
I'm really trying to like focus my energy on those two things, and using the newsletter as the thing that I'm
The
driving
link
people
between.
to, and using it to like make whatever I write in the newsletter I can turn into content.
Somehow.
Well, there's
Yeah.
two things I want to build off of in that. One, I think that's really smart because even like I work for a bigger content company. We have probably 15 employees now, and I'm like the main marketing person. And even this year, we were like, okay, we're expanding into making sure we're on 10, 12 different platforms. But like our bread and butter is Instagram, YouTube, X. And it's like those three places are where most of our audience is or
Yeah.
goes. And that's where most of our energy is. But it's also like we're repurposing for TikTok. We're
call
putting
it
it on
X.
Blue Sky. We're doing all of the stuff to
Not
make
like when
sure
people
we can
say
grow
X.
other
I know,
places.
I know.
Except for Estelle. Estelle's allowed.
But we
I'm not on it anymore.
That's good.
I know I should be.
It's a fucking
I know. That's
cesspool.
the thing. Is like I feel I will say honestly, like I'm like I hear people talking about it constantly, and I'm like, God
what
damn it.
I
should
will
be
say
on
though
there.
too, even about X, like Twitter, I don't use my personal account at all anymore, and I'm basically letting that die unless I find a
No,
new
I
purpose for it in
fully
life.
deactivated.
But
I need to deactivate.
for like our podcast, Twitter this
I-
month,
I know.
and this week,
I
as we've been
know.
promoting our season 2, we had like 280 subscribers on YouTube. We have 450 now, entirely because of X.
You weaponize the children.
Weaponizing
So
the
I'm
fans
like,
of Patrick
I-
Stump.
Hey,
really.
listen, why the fuck not? But I'm just like so it's on my mind.
It's a useful tool if
it
you can
also is
find
a
the
fucking
right way.
cesspool of
I know.
disgusting
Oh, yeah,
people.
But that's the internet. So
But that
It's
again, if you can
worse-
find the right communities, like what's nice about the Glass Slipping X is it's mostly like Fall Out Boy fans and pop punk fans.
Sick.
Great people.
Yeah.
Great
Good
vibes.
vibes.
Yeah,
like
the vibes are good.
no like
on the whole.
hate
Right.
or general shit that you're seeing in the
Right.
greater X
Love
platform.
it.
What's crazy about launching X for my company, where we're not following anyone and we're just getting what X is feeding to people.
It's psychotic.
It is unbelievable how
What
much
they're
it's like
feeding, yeah.
90% Elon Musk and then
know.
all of the conservatives that are latching onto him.
I know.
And so it is unbelievable
crazy?
how much like I had not, because of my own algorithm on my account, really gotten a sense of how much them lifting moderation changed. Like the amount of just like blatant, whether it's racism,
Hatred.
anti-Semitism, crazy
Crazy.
shit every day on
Yeah,
X.
I know.
And that's just an account. We don't follow anyone on that account, so they are just feeding us, and we don't like anything
whatever they
other than
yeah.
comments back to us.
So
like
it's just like what they give you.
Whatever they
it
give you,
is
yeah. Or it's like
unbelievable.
it's really crazy. Like I feel like Twitter is something I've had probably the thing that I've had the longest, other than Facebook. So I feel like I understand
Longer
it
than
really.
Instagram?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I had Twitter way before Instagram.
Huh.
Twitter was around before Instagram. No.
yeah.
Yeah, I got
Around
Twitter in like probably
2006 was probably Twitter.
2009.
2009, 10 was Instagram probably.
Yeah, and then I didn't get Instagram until I was like later in high school. So I also just was not like a super internet-y person. Like I just, as a kid, I just was like not super interested in it. I don't know why. It made me feel scared mostly. And also I was like just not super like tech savvy because my parents weren't really.
Ah.
So I was like, whatever, I don't need that. But I did get Twitter very early on. And so it's something that I like understand really well. So I run my band's account, which I've been very, very intentional about like posting, because I feel like I know how to weaponize the children. Like I get it. Like I know what being like a 15, 16-year-old on Twitter feels like, and what it's like, and what they want to see and what they don't want to see. So I feel like I've really kind of cultivated like a nice following there. But then you post like one thing
that they don't like,
that breaks through.
That's not even that breaks through that wall of safety of these kids that love you and who are amazing and so supportive. And honestly, I love them so much. Like I love my little Twitter friends, my gay friends on my phone. But we posted something like so mild after the election that was just like, you know, like we see you, we hear you, like what, like we'll continue to fight for you, whatever.
People went nuts.
People were telling us to kill ourselves. I'm not kidding. Random fucking people were like, you stupid bitch, get back in the kitchen. Like literally, I'm not kidding. I had to delete the entire app from my phone. I was like, this is so crazy, because obviously it was
so crazy.
It was so crazy.
What are we doing?
And I was like, I wasn't taking anything to heart, because I was like, you guys are actually so stupid. It's crazy. But I was just like, oh, like this just broke through enough to give me stress.
So let me ask you a question, because I'm curious to hear both of your takes on this. Because I could start an X account for the newsletter or for the Fourth Wall Company, whatever. But I'm like, will that even get engagement if it's not a person? Like,
I think
so. Our podcast and the
that's what I'm asking.
Daisy
Like, you guys
account
both
are
have accounts that are not necessarily.
I don't
like
use
a
my personal anymore
account.
at all.
I think it is just about figuring out what parts of the audience. Like literally, our Twitter account has doubled in size this week as I've been promoting season 2, mostly because our first guest is a member of Fall Out Boy.
Yeah, right.
And so we are able to. They have a huge fan base
Who I've
online.
met, by the way. This is a funny
Oh,
sidestep.
really? Patrick or Pete?
Well, okay, so I think Pete is from my hometown. I think Pete's from
They're all
Glenview.
from Chicago.
Yeah, so
Oh, yeah,
Pete's
they're all from Chicago,
So
yeah.
Pete's, I think, went to Glenbrook South, I think. I'll have to confirm.
I can ask him.
But they did, when I was a senior in high school, we did a fundraising concert
Okay.
that I hosted.
Of course.
No way.
Of course. Which
Of
is so
course.
crazy because I'm like, right, I've always been fucking hosting that they played. They played.
Oh my
we did
God,
like
at
a,
your
it was
high
like
school?
a can drive in the fucking gymnasium of
That's
the school that
so
they
That's
played.
unbelievable.
And I was like the host of it.
That's so sick.
And I was thinking about that on my way here. I was like, oh my God. Like
That's
how
also
is this-
crazy because what year was that? Probably like 2000.
2009.
So like
the
peak,
height of their fame.
like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. How the fuck did you do that?
Not me. I don't know. They just asked me to host. I was just like,
It was like your high school doing it.
It
So
was-
ma-
yeah, it
that
was
must
Glenbrook
have been
it was a
Fall
can,
Out Boy
it was a-
reaching out to the high school and
It was a
letting that happen.
can
'Cause
drive.
There's no way.
It was a can
I'm
drive.
sure the high school probably could reach out to. They're so like
And
Chicago.
I think, yeah, and I think that's the other thing is like I think he was really connected to the alumni network or the school in
I
whatever
love
way.
that they did that. That's so cool.
The whole band they played.
I
It was
love them.
insane.
Unbelievable.
They're the best.
So anyway, yeah, I've met them. So anyway, I'm thinking about starting an X account. That's fun. And the Fourth Wall is basically my answer to all of that. That I'm like, I want to just make a place on the internet that's
I
like
think that-
we can talk about, like how are we as artists and creators like making things, marketing whatever we're making with more creativity. Like, I
Absolutely.
think we can start thinking outside the
think
box.
that a Fourth Wall account would do well, because I think everyone's like whole thing on Twitter specifically is like all the brands, like big brands, like they all try to like sort of feign sentience like on Twitter, which is like what people think is funny. I think like any kind of like I'm talking about like brands like Oreo and like fucking like crazy.
Right.
It's like
It sounds like a person.
some Gen
But what
Z
they're trying
intern.
to recapture is like 5-6 years ago when it was still a novel idea. This is a real person typing this and sending the tweet.
Which
Right.
we
And so-
know.
and
Which we
that's-
know.
And
We
that's
obviously
what
know,
people
but-
appreciated about the breakthrough for brands. But I think it's also what works about both the accounts we run is like you can
They
tell
know
it
it's
is
me.
like
Yeah.
Keaton running it or me running it.
They
Like,
know it's me.
Right.
And so you can have more
Right, you don't have to
interaction
hide
that
behind
has
like corporate
personality.
speak.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Well, that's a good thing to think about.
There are a lot of Broadway stands on.
Oh, I know it.
too.
Trust me, I know. And I will say, like, I've been blown again. 5 weeks I've been doing this.
One.
I have been blown away by. I'm almost at 500 subscribers. I'm about to cross. I'll probably cross 500 in the next like week and a half, which is insane.
Yeah.
Because I had 0 when I started.
And that's 500 people willingly giving you their email,
correct.
which I try
That's
my
not just like
best
my
to not
parents'
do.
friends.
Yeah.
Like, these are people that I don't know. And the even crazier part is I'm getting emails almost every single day from people that are not only in New York, some of that, but it's mostly people in these like really random regional markets that run a tiny little theater in Iowa that are like, this is so helpful and inspiring. Like,
That's amazing.
I have been needing something like this. We've been waiting for something like this because, again, there really was only the Broadway briefing and Ken Davenport's email. Yeah. Other than that, there's not an email newsletter that is talking about theater or the arts or marketing and the sort of convergence of all that in a way that's like, not opinion, but like just like more personal and has like an actual voice and like is a person. And I knew that someone would do it, and I was like, well, I guess I should.
It could be me.
I guess I should be the one. And I listen. I had a podcast for 5 years, and I didn't have 500 subscribers. Like, you know, it's working already. And again, like the opportunities have already started coming in.
That's amazing.
To do consulting, which again we thought like maybe could happen, and I'm getting hired to help people with emails. I'm like, I've been writing emails for 5 weeks. Like, what are we doing?
I don't know. Yeah.
But again, you've been working in structure for years. And that's like, I think so many things are applicable across. Like, if you were a good video editor, you were probably good at structurally making an email look nice, or these things can be like, a lot of it is just like miniature storytelling.
Yeah,
like even
that's true.
Editing jobs I've applied for, a lot of it is like, can you tell a story in 45 seconds? Or can you identify a story in 5 minutes of footage because we need a 30-second clip that tells a story.
Which I think that's maybe why, like, I have a lot of gratitude for the fact that I have a BFA. Like, I think that has been...
BFA,
I do weaponize it. I think it really has been, like, the thing that has differentiated me in terms of marketing, at least, because I have an understanding of story structure. I have an understanding of, like, how to connect with an audience in a way that's, like, real and personal and breaking the fourth wall. Like, that's the thing that I feel like people... Like, I want to see more brands doing, and I want to see more people doing, is like talking to the audience or connecting with an audience in a way that's actually like real. Like, we can smell bullshit. We just can now. We've crossed over. Like, we don't want, and when it comes to shows especially, like, we don't want to hear. Yeah, I could go on and on about it.
I know what you mean.
I do want to get into the actual like issues in show marketing, but before we get to that, So you said you're about to hit 500 through 5 weeks. So that's pretty good, steady growth. Has that been steady growth? Has that been like 3 posts that hit most of it? Because like I can point to, whether it's for our podcast or like, especially when I was blowing up on TikTok, I can point to 4 videos that were like 100,000 of my subscribers on TikTok.
So
like,
what I'll say is, I would say on average, so not every day, but on average, I'm probably growing like 10 to 15 subscribers per day.
Okay.
Which I'm really happy with. I think that's an awesome number,
great.
Especially as a beginner. Like, I think, and again, not beginner, but as someone who's just starting out this newsletter that started from 0, 10 to 15 is like a great number for me. If I can hit anywhere, some days it's 4, some days it's 24, based on like a post I posted on LinkedIn or something like that. There was, because I did this TikTok article, I wrote this article about the TikTok ban was coming on a Monday. I had the newsletter goes out on Fridays. Mm-hmm. I had this idea on Monday. I was like, what if I talk to all these like theater TikTokers?
I saw this,
and just ask them about like their experience and like the community, and like make something that's like kind of nice, but also like has an angle of like education, and like maybe you can share some wisdom. And so I reached out to like 15 TikTokers, thinking that like 4 would respond. 13 of them did.
Oh, wow.
Which was wonderful. I was very overwhelmed by the fact that most of them were like, I've been dying to talk to you. I've either followed you for a long time or like I've been inspired by what you made, like, which is really crazy cool. I interviewed these 13 people for 15 to 30 minutes each. I got the transcripts. I threw them into GPT, and I said, because it would have taken me weeks to do this. I threw them into GPT and I said, pull out like the 5 core themes across these 13 interviews. Because you got to remember, like, it's 13 interviews that were at least 30 minutes each.
Yeah, that's
a lot of material.
Yeah.
So I was like, give me 5 themes. Of course, in like 18 seconds. It's like, here are the 5 themes that are like through all the interviews with quotes. Like, and I used it to like help me craft and pull quotes and like put it all together. Of course, I'm the one writing it at the end. But like, to have that as a tool was truly like priceless. It would have taken me a month to do this thing that took me 3 days. Now, I pulled 3 all-nighters because I needed to get it done and I wanted to get it done, and it turns out I was right. Mm-hmm. That thing is what it has been, at least in the last 5 weeks.
That's
the thing that
hit.
like that, because all 13 of them shared it.
And it was your 3rd newsletter?
Yeah.
I think it's funny. this is a weird superstition for myself, but so much of the different content things I've done, it's usually the third video. Like when I'm daily vlogging, whatever, like
the 3rd.
When I'm doing that The third
times
of
the
my daily
charm.
vlogs was me at the Capitol chairs, like in 7 different elements of my life.
It's the third.
The third one of whatever
No, I hate
It's the
iteration
thing that
So
like puts it
funny.
over the edge.
fucking hits.
I think that's I'm sure there's something in there, neuroscience, but I think also like people start to take you seriously. I started to find my own voice. I like really feel like I'm finding my voice right now. Like I'm writing the 6th one, and I like really feel like I'm finding my groove in terms of like how I want to write. I've gotten a lot of really awesome feedback from people in the industry, not just actors, like people, and not just marketers, like people that are writers and editors, and like it's really been across the board that the one thing people are loving is that like it's personal. It feels like it's coming from me.
Yeah.
And they like the angles that I'm like, or the takes that I have, or like even if they don't agree necessarily with the opinions, the thing that I'm hearing the most is like it's making me think about X in a different way.
Yeah.
Which is really X as in like
Yes, I got
XYZ,
you. I
not
got
X
you.
the platform. Which is really awesome, like, and really cool, and it's been fun. And again, I do feel a little bit like a fraud because I don't necessarily like have all the answers, and people are asking me really, really, really thoughtful, interesting questions that I don't have the answers to. But it makes me want to be like, okay, maybe there's a community
But
here
you're
that we
talking
can put
about
something
it,
together.
There's
know?
also something to be said about that. Like, I was talking to someone about this recently because they work in like a very specific lane, and one of their other friends wants to start some type of media output that is built around education and the subject. And they were like, I don't feel qualified placing myself as a voice of authority on this. And I was like, but you don't have to be the voice of authority.
Yeah.
That's right.
So long as you can be willing to say like, oh no, that was a wrong read.
Yeah.
Or like, that was wrong.
That's
or
like how I feel on
this
this
is what I
podcast, like-
think.
I don't know shit about shit. Like I really don't. Like I know that I like to make music, and I know that I like to do theater, and that's
And
all I
talk.
want to do. And I know that I like to talk, obviously. But I'm like, I'm not making it work. Like I still work a day job. Like it's not like I figured out like the fucking money hack.
I don't
and
know
I'm
if
like,
there is figuring it
there
out.
isn't. I don't think so. I'm like, I'm not a voice of authority. I don't know more than anybody. I might know more than someone, but like
You definitely know
more
more
than
than someone.
someone.
But your, and this is what you were saying to me, like your unique combination of experiences
Yes.
is the thing that like sets you apart from other people,
It's
which
the
is
sauce.
which is what I'm finding like in a new way, that like 10 years in, I'm like, oh yes, the convergence of all my experiences
leads
does
to this
have a
the
unique
ability to
offering.
like
Yes.
give you this thing.
And even though I'm not the voice of authority and I don't have all the answers, I actually have a lot of answers.
I have a lot to say, at least. That's for
I
sure.
also
do.
think the moment you start seeking to be the voice of authority, people stop taking you seriously. As
Absolutely.
opposed
and you should
to
stop taking yourself seriously.
this
That's
is what I
ridiculous.
have based on my experience. Like people are more inclined to treat you as a voice of authority because
Totally.
they're reading it from like, in my humble opinion, this is what this
and
is.
I have the relationships too. So like
Totally.
I can go talk to other people. You know,
Yeah.
the thing like in my mind's eye, the thing that I think about is like in 6 months or a year, I want to be able to have a conference where I can invite like 20 speakers that I know personally that like would want to come and talk
Be so
about
cool.
marketing from all the different agencies. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think there is also something to being able to curate and like be a centralized place for a conversation happening without being like the one that has all the answers.
Yeah, totally.
I'm very excited about it. As
I
you
think
can
that's
tell.
really cool. And like I said, I think it's very cool. Like what you're talking about earlier about like how everything you've done has come from, or every opportunity you've gotten has come from something that you've made. And in the same right that I was talking about my lovely dear friend who was like, oh, it's just these relationships. But I'm like, those relationships are going to be the thing that end up actually taking you the farthest, because like you can like literally track like moment by moment how you got to where you start or where you ended up.
You just don't know.
You just never
Like
know.
there are so many of the opportunities that I have coming in right now post tour that are relationships that I built 5-10 years ago.
Literally the only reason my band exists is because of a relationship that I made with a senior in high school when I was a freshman, Hannah.
So wild.
And
Yeah.
it's like she came back into my life 15 years later and was like, hey, this is cool. What do you think about doing this? And now here we are. So it's like my whole life revolves around it now. And it's like I always
You just
loved
don't know.
I always loved her so much, but we were not in touch. It's not like we were the best of friends or whatever, but I always just like loved and respect what she did and thought it was so cool.
You just never know.
You never know.
You really never know. Like,
It's an argument for being nice.
and
to
again,
everybody.
that's why you know you show up with kindness and generosity and everything that
Yes.
you do, because you just don't know who you're encountering. I mean, auditioning, obviously this is true, because you go in a room and the goal is not to get the job, the goal is to win the room.
Yeah.
The goal is to make a good
Make
impression
a
and
fan, yeah.
Yeah, and like have them like enjoy you as a human being, because ultimately like
Yeah.
when you come back in, like they're gonna they're going to want to bring you back.
That's a good way to describe it too. The job is to win the room, because it's also like, I think of that, like Jamie and I did a shoot for a product like a couple months ago where I was like, what we're getting paid to do this, like for the amount of work it is, not really worth it, but investing in this relationship because they are likely, if this succeeds, going to be doing way more media.
Oh yeah.
And here is the opportunity for a real relationship that could turn into, and like that hasn't turned into anything since. We've exchanged a couple emails since then, but like you never know. And
okay, so let me tell you something. But you're gonna have to bleep out all the titles I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that
Redacted.
okay? Okay, so there's a relationship that I formed with somebody 7, 8 years ago, who I've known from the very beginning of my career as a creator or as like a maker. He has a marketing agency that I've done tons of freelance projects for them. Like I've shot opening nights and stuff. I've done so much like random little edit jobs that were like, $100, $200 there.
Yeah. So
I reached out to him when I got back from tour. We get coffee a couple weeks ago. I'm doing this newsletter. I told him I was like, I want to start consulting and like helping, brands with like, or helping shows like figure out what their marketing strategy is. And because of the agency that he's at, he represents, here comes the bleeps. So he said to me, he's like, I want you to come and do an audit on all 4 of our shows.
Oh, wow.
Social media audit on all 4 of our shows, and give us like strategy, insights, like help us figure out like what's working and like what can we be doing better.
And
wow, that's crazy.
What is the rate for that?
I don't know. but
The T is I have no idea.
But I'm not getting paid a lot to do this. I'm actually getting paid like very much not a lot. However, and I'm like, I hope I'm excited because first of all, it's really good experience for me because I haven't done this yet. This is the first time I'm going to be doing this, and for me to have those 4 titles,
Right? It's the first time you're doing it, being the biggest shows on Broadway.
Literally,
we might have to believe that.
That's fine, but like
redacted.
But for me to have those 4 titles on my like resume as a consultant,
absolutely
will
open doors.
It will probably pay off for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
Like I will get consulting opportunities because of those names.
100%.
Not a question.
Are you kidding me?
And so that's to say, which again,
even just with just one of
those.
Yeah.
And so that's to say the same thing you're talking about. Like, first of all, that would never have happened if I hadn't invested in that relationship and showed up and did all those like little jobs along the way.
Yeah.
Me taking this one and saying like, I don't need to take a big fee on this.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting the value is so much
high.
more than the money because it will pay off way later. I just think like there is a level of big picture thinking that we have to like engage in as creative people.
Absolutely, but not knowing, like, I really like this conversation because there's a difference between knowing your value. Like, I think a lot of people would be like, and they're not paying me enough. This massive company is not paying me enough to do this huge thing. And I know they have it. And I'm worth more than that, which is an amazing feeling to have.
Yeah.
But you have to know, like, I always say this. I'm like, you have to know what battles are worth fighting and what battles are worth, like, just taking the key that they're giving you to the door that you want to open and not fighting about, how much the key costs or what it's made of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%. Well, and I also think I get where, because I think I operated with the same mindset with a lot of the jobs that, especially when I first got to New York. And it's the same thing of like, if you're accepting $100 to do these videos for Playbill, it's like, what is this video really worth? Now I could maybe quantify that in a better way and be like, this is what you're getting for this.
Yes.
This is why this is worth this much.
Yes.
But at the time,
you can get pissy and this is what we were talking about just the other day with something that I'm dealing with, where you're like, don't shut the door yet, express your distaste, and then we will figure out how to move forward from that.
There's always a conversation to be had.
Well, and you just never know what, like, there were a decent amount of jobs. Like my first 2 years in New York, most of the video jobs I took paid so poorly and like were just my key into a random room.
Absolutely.
Where I was like, I don't give a fuck about the video I'm making for this random company, but I do care about the 4 people who I'm filming.
That's right.
Exactly.
And that, if I can just make a positive impression with those people.
Looking at a situation like that holistically, I think doesn't come, not maybe it does come easy for some people, but I think it comes with a lot of experience. Like I don't think that everyone on the jump is able to look at an experience like that and maybe, like I said, maybe not making as much money as you'd like to make on something like that, but being able to have that perspective to just be like, this will pay off in a massive way for me. So I'm going to take whatever they're going to offer me. And it might be lower than what I know my expertise is worth here or whatever. And just move forward with it.
And like we were talking about earlier with like nuance, right? Like I'm able to both say, okay, this isn't a lot of money. I'm going to put in a really good amount of effort because I want it to be good and I want to succeed. And like that would be, I do want to do a good job.
Yeah.
And I also know because I'm about to be 33 and I've been around for a long time that like I don't need, like I can find a way to do this in a way that's sustainable. Like I don't need to spend 60 hours working on this for this amount of money.
Now you know that.
Yes. Right. And now, thank God, I have a tool like ChatGPT that I can say, hey, I'm getting paid this much to do this job. Can you give me an outline of like how much time I should spend on X, Y, or Z?
Yeah.
Like, and like help me outline this time to just see like where my best time investment is and like what I can say I'm going to offer based on the amount of money that they're going to pay me. Right. Like, again, nuance. Like that doesn't mean I'm only doing those things. I'm going to put an extra effort and energy because I want to do a good job. But I have a tool now that can help me do that in a way that like 5 years ago, 2 years ago, like I would not have had that.
Well, it's also getting into the nuance of it. Like you don't always know on a marketing level, even with the knowledge you have or the knowledge that we've built up over the years of making these things, you can take a look and an assessment of what is working and what's not working. And like that usually is pretty clear based on numbers and metrics, based on what's already being done. But you could implement strategies like right now, my company, we're promoting a movie. And like we're throwing shit at the wall,
of course.
And like there have been 6 things that we can point to that have really, really worked.
Throw shit at the wall.
And it's like, oh, we're hitting those harder and harder because those converted sales for the movie, those converted sales for this. These other 7 things we tried didn't.
Yeah.
And like they worked in different clip varieties, but like we have the data now, having done it, didn't work. So we're trying new shit.
Yeah.
And like that only comes from a certain level of experience and confidence in being able to be like,
but there's just no guarantees.
Yeah,
there's
you
no
don't
guarantees.
actually know.
No.
But you do the audit, you point at 6 things that aren't working, 6 things that are. You should lean into this direction. Suddenly, if that works, you don't know what on the other end they say. Holy shit, we just converted.
Yes. And the other thing that I am finding, and again, this is about me like figuring out my angle and my positioning, is that like the thing that people want from me, or the thing I'm hoping people want from me, is my creativity. Isn't necessarily my data analysis, isn't necessarily my guarantees. It's more about like, how can we be thinking about this thing in a more creative way? What are other approaches that like we just are not seeing? Like we want your eye because we know that you think in a different way.
I was going to say that. I was like, I think something about this that's really interesting is like, this takes a certain amount of open-mindedness, I think, to throw shit at the wall and see what comes back and what sticks and whatever, that I don't think everybody has, because I think as an artist, especially people who are like mostly like marketing data, like that sort of like mindset wise, where it's like interesting to me that like those people don't necessarily always have like an arts background when you're marketing art, because like how do you do that?
Yeah.
But like even something that I'm experiencing right now in like my own career is just like artistically like literally trying everything that everyone sends us, like trying everything, whether it's like cutting scratch vocals on a song that I didn't write, or like trying to write with a new person, or like whatever, and just having the corporate label side of people just ask me for an open-mindedness that's just like, just try everything.
Yeah.
And it's scary
terrifying.
because sometimes something bad comes out of it and you're like, ooh, that is uncomfortable.
But when
to
you
look
say
at.
bad, what do you mean bad? Like,
I mean like just something that's just like not the best look, you know, and not the greatest song, not the greatest take, not the greatest whatever.
but it doesn't like ruin your life, is what
Nothing
you're saying.
ruins your life.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Right. You're just like not necessarily satisfied with the
You're like,
product.
that's not it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we tried it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to like track a fucking scratch vocals on a ska song, then I'm like, that's not really my vibe. They're like, just try everything once.
Just see.
Try everything once.
And that's and if it sucks and it's terrible, we can throw it out and never
That's
listen
what I
to
said
it
about
again.
being gay, and then it just like
And then
it just stuck. You know what I mean? I was like, I'll try it, and then I was like, I'm in. I'm into this.
Oh, I'm into this.
I was like, actually, yeah, this is good for me.
Peter wants to talk about AI.
Yeah, which I can. There's a transition there.
No, yeah, I would like to talk a little more about your use of AI, because I think AI in general, I don't want to say gets a bad rap. It's just such a split in terms of how people think about it, because I think it's so interesting. Like,
It's binary thinking once again.
it's really binary thinking though, because I see 2 sides of being from the Bay Area, like everyone in the Bay Area is fucking obsessed with AI in
And,
a
like,
way that is
tech,
like
yeah.
a little culty in the way that they're obsessed with tech. But I get it. And like it is the next frontier of technology. And then there's also
It's here.
It's here.
Yeah,
It is here.
weirdly, I actually do have thoughts on this.
But then there's also, I think, like more nuanced conversations about its use in creative spaces,
Yeah.
where it eliminates jobs or helps create jobs,
Yeah.
the environmental impacts. There's a lot of different reasons people feel iffy about it
Yeah.
that I want to validate.
I feel like the thing that people feel iffy about, if I may, because I do personally feel iffy about this, not about AI in general, because unfortunately, like it is just here. It is, and trying to say don't use it is just not. It's just not helpful. It's like it would be like telling a 14-year-old don't use your phone. It's like that's not going to happen. They're going to use your phone. So telling them how to use it correctly and how to implement it into their schoolwork or into their whatever, like it's not going away.
Yeah.
So let's figure out how to use it. I think generative AI, especially in creative spaces, is a little tough for me. Like a band using AI to create an album cover instead of hiring people.
Okay.
That's tough for me.
Okay.
I also think that it's nuanced, and I think that there's in every different it's a case by case situation.
Yeah, totally.
There was an instance recently of a band who like did some like show poster art or something
Yeah.
through AI,
Mhm.
posted it, got fucking ripped apart, ended up deleting their Twitter account because they just like were getting like whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of get this. Like, I was like, I kind of get, because there are so many graphic designers out there that design that you already have in a Rolodex.
Yeah.
So why? Just to do it for free? Or
yeah,
like,
I mean, I guess again, it's like nuance, right? Because like,
Super.
on one hand, you're like, well, it actually is going to save us money, and like, we are in a capitalist society, and like, this is part of what we're doing.
and I think for me, this situation was like, this band has money. I'm like, I know you have money to pay people.
And so in that regard, I'm like, okay, if we're gonna utilize AI as a tool, let's lean into the fact that we're gonna utilize AI as a tool. Let's be explicit about that.
Totally.
Let's use it in a way that's interesting and creative.
I have a question for you then. What did you think about the Christmas Coca-Cola ad?
Was that
Did you see
AI?
this?
Yeah, I saw it.
It was because their marketing was trying to lean into, this is an entirely AI generated commercial. Like there are parts of it that are a little uneasy because it's like the song underneath is AI generated, and it's like just holidays are coming over and over again. It's like a little scary.
I am a little
but-
afraid of like I said, like generative AI taking songwriters' jobs, because that is a huge way that writers
Yeah.
make money in Nashville and LA and New York.
Yeah.
And I feel fear around that a little bit, because
hear
I'm
you.
like, it's so little money anyway, and people cut their teeth. You know, people sign massive fucking pub deals and cut their teeth writing for people for 10 years before they get a big cut and
I
before they
know.
make their money.
I know.
And I've heard demos that I'm like, oh my God, that demo voice is AI. And I'm like, that's scary to me.
especially you can't trust these big studios to not do
Of
everything in
course
their
not.
incentive to cut the writer royalty out. And like,
That scares me.
Which again, like, I hear you. I don't disagree. I'm also like,
If you can use it, use it.
well, not even that.
cats out of the bag, people
Not-
are using it.
Right.
Sure.
That it's here.
Absolutely.
And so it's
I'm with you. I'm
like,
100%
yes,
with you on
100%.
that.
Like, you know what? Guess what? When cars were invented, I'm sure there were people that were like, I will ride my horse until the end of time.
Yes.
And the people in the cars were like, cool.
Talking about cars too, that what is the most common blue collar job in America, truck driving, will likely disappear in the next 50 years.
And again, like, the nuance of this is, I don't think there's a right answer or a wrong answer.
Mm-hmm.
It is here. It is happening. And so we have to navigate.
Absolutely.
I don't believe that it will take over creative jobs. I don't believe
There
that's
is
true.
nothing that has convinced me more that art has a soul than seeing AI art. Because I'm like, okay, there's something deeply disturbing about this.
The thing I'm most interested in is, and again, it's 2025 that we're talking about this. It could be very different in 6 months, 2 years, definitely 10 years from now. Right now, the thing that I'm most curious about, because I'm trying to approach everything with, that's my word for 2025 is curiosity, is using it, you're utilizing it as a tool,
Sure.
not as a replacement, but utilizing it as a way
A
to
tool in
help
your
me.
toolbox.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
I didn't mean to laugh. I have a friend who works in some like business tech job in San Francisco, and he was talking about like his job in the last 2 years has become way easier because he's using so much AI to do it. But he was like, it is a little weird because I feel like I'm training this AI model
to do my job.
to do my job.
To take my
and
job.
it is like the weird back and forth of it, because like going back to Colin and Samir, I think it was Samir talked about like his first job in Hollywood on a TV set was like a sync job that now a computer can do in 8 seconds.
Yeah.
That used to be like a whole job that people had. But those jobs, I think the thing about innovation is like those jobs no longer exist. There are different editing jobs that exist now that are purely based around AI.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know the tail of that. Like any new innovation is going to eliminate previous jobs, create new ones.
Yep. I saw a really good take that I thought was really interesting that I think we're going to start seeing this year. If not this year, then 2026 for sure. That we're going to start seeing like certifications on content, on albums, on artwork that says like human generated.
Oh,
that, like,
interesting.
people are going to want, in the same way that like organic had a moment.
Okay, but also
I
like,
think that we're going to start seeing stuff that people are going to be like, I want to know that it was made by a human being.
okay, but also like even before that happens and becomes like, it'd be really cool to just put that on something. Like it would be cool to just like put that stamp on it just so that people know.
Yeah.
Like even before
Exactly.
it becomes like, that's a really sick idea.
I
Human
saw that.
generated.
I saw that in an email newsletter, and I was like, that is exactly what's going to happen.
On like you know, like the explicit sticker on an album.
Exactly.
It's like
100%
human
Human
generated.
generated. Yep.
That's sick.
Like 100% human
We're doing.
generated.
I'm like,
Yep,
I'm doing
100%
that. Sorry.
human made. Like I think that's really cool and interesting. And again, like it's that you don't get that unless you have the other thing. So like
So
the
true.
contrast is necessary.
Also, like I genuinely think like we are of the generation where it's like we grew up obviously like post.com boom, so we always grew up with technology, but like we didn't grow up with iPhones in our hands in grade school. You know what I mean? Like we had to learn how to implement technology into our lives as we got older. We didn't just grow up with it there. Like we became accustomed to it. Whereas like now what we're getting, like AI is the newest frontier of what we're getting accustomed to, but we're also used to implementing different things into our lives. Like we have been our whole lives.
I also think like where I struggle with the AI conversation is people love to treat it like such a binary, and
just bad, just good.
yeah,
It's like,
and like
it's not true.
I can't take it.
And in terms of
the binary thing drives me fucking insane.
because I think
it's
of
across the fucking board. Especially, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but
No,
like
please.
this whole like Gen Z mentality of like, I don't believe in the binary, and then everything is fucking black and white.
Oh,
It's like
absolutely.
I don't
There's
understand.
no
You can't just think about that only in terms of gender. Like every single thing in the world is nuanced.
Yeah, and I think of it like the way
true.
that companies over the years, like I think about Google. Like Google was a very effective search engine for a long time, was like the best search engine you get. And then as their corporate and financial influences grew, search became worse because suddenly people are paying for advertising slots. Suddenly people are paying to blot things out of advertising. And suddenly Google like was no longer the most effective thing. You were better off going to Reddit and searching that specific idea. Now,
Can I take NyQuil and also Mucinex DM at the same time?
Yeah.
I'm searching
And,
like,
like-
TikTok too.
Yeah,
let me
and
tell you.
literally.
AI is not perfect for that. Sometimes it'll tell you, yes, take these 2 medications at the same time.
And
And
then
you
it's like,
shouldn't.
you end up in the hospital, yeah.
The kinks are working out. But in terms of search, has become a lot better in the last 2 years after it had become
Because
a
of AI.
lot worse.
Yeah.
Because of AI. And not only
Because
like,
you can get a clear answer at the very top with no ads.
well, and
before
now
it.
Google is having to innovate against a competitor for
They
the first
have to.
time
Yeah.
in over a decade. Like the only competitor they ever had in search was YouTube, and they just fucking bought it.
They just
They were
bought
like,
it.
and now they're trying to implement AI into their Google, and it leads
Well,
to
because
some
they're
funny-
competing with TikTok. They're competing with Perplexity, which I'm fucking obsessed with.
Wait, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, so I would say the 3 tools that I'm using the most right now. 4. I'll give you 4 tools that I'm using the most right now. Is that okay? We're to transition into this.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
So the 4 tools that I'm using the most, I do use ChatGPT. I'm a big fan. I think it's really, really good at processing large amounts of data. And
I had a friend negotiate an entire national tour contract with ChatGPT because she had been dropped by her agents.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And again, it's not perfect. Like I said, like when I used it to cull through those interviews, like it sometimes will pull the wrong quotes, and I had to catch it. And like I never copy paste. That's not. I'm gonna say that probably 10 more times, but like it's not a copy paste thing. That's not where we're at right
It's
now.
just a helpful tool.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I like using it as a generative tool too. I like using it and saying like, here's the ideas, or like, here's something that like I'm trying to like figure out exactly what I mean or what I'm trying to say, or like, what's this? And it's able to like parse it out for me in an interesting way. I love Claude. I'm a big advocate for Claude. I love the way that it it speaks in a more natural way than GPT does. And I use both. I go back and I literally have them open on 2 tabs, and I will put the same prompt in both and see what it spits out. And a lot of times I'll take what I get from GPT and put it in Claude because I like the way that Claude like starts to like use my own voice in that way. But again, I am using it both generatively, like in the sense of saying like, here's this idea that I have. Can you help me sort of like build it out or parse it out? Or taking what I have already and saying, can you give me feedback on this thing? But again, never copy pasting. It's more about just like using it as a tool to like.
Well, the tool is the biggest thing. We had this conversation in with our last guest talking about auto-tune in music and how it led to the evolution of music and different things. But a lot of people resent it because they thought it was a
I had my A&R shout out, Johnny, I love you. I had him say to me about TikTok because I was in LA and we went into the office and I had like, some fucking breakdown about not wanting to make TikToks or whatever. And like halfway through this 20-minute rant of me, I'm like crying and this man's like, gorgeous LA office. And I'm like, how many times a week do you have this conversation? And he's like, I have it every day.
Yeah.
I have it every day. And he was like, listen, I don't know how it fucking works. They don't know how it fucking works. All I can tell you is that it does work. And that it's MTV. And nobody wanted to do videos when MTV came out. And now it is the industry standard. And I know, and he's like, so the reality is you can either move with it and find a way to make it authentic and make it feel good to you, or you can sit back and resent it. But all we know is that it works. We don't know how it works, but we know it does.
And the people who resisted, the people who were refusing to make videos when MTV took over, are the people who were left behind.
Yeah, and then people like Madonna was like, actually, this is great for me. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, right. This is my tool to become the biggest artist in the world.
So I was like, I loved that take because I also hate when people look at me and are like, I know how this works and here's how you're going to do it. And it's like, no, you fucking don't. So to have somebody look you straight in the face who's a huge fucking exec and is like, listen, I don't fucking know how it works. And I have meetings with TikTok every week.
But it does.
But like, it does. We know that it does work. So if you keep at it, it will work.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's hard, but you gotta move with it because it's here now and it's not going away.
Yeah.
So figure out how it works for you. Figure out how you can implement that toolbox and not just say like, I'm gonna just phone it in and like whatever, because that doesn't work either.
Yeah, I listen. Part of the reason why I was convinced that I could do a newsletter every week is because I saw the power of these tools, and I was like, oh, if I can figure out a way to utilize these in a way to like make sure it's still in my voice and help me like I was like, oh, this seems like really possible.
But
and,
I think that's being an artist though, is like being able to open the toolbox and know how you can use them in your own
or
voice.
Wanting to figure it out
or at least the curiosity to figure it out.
And how in talking about the importance of creating systems so that you can release weekly, because we know like
it's a lot.
It's a lot, and it's also the only way you can build anything.
Yeah.
And especially on the internet where everyone's attention goes about 30 seconds ahead of them. If you're not releasing weekly, like you're not making it. Like,
you're done.
Or if you're not releasing daily in a lot of things, you're not going to grow in the way that you could be.
That's right.
And it's like if you can systematize it so that a one-man band can put it out.
Which you can.
Yeah.
You can.
It is possible.
Okay, we got
Claude
and
GPT.
GPT.
I gave it GPT, Claude. Perplexity is the third one that I'm like just starting to scratch the surface on, which is a search engine that basically is like a research tool, I guess. Is maybe the best way I would explain it.
I talked for a while about this with Walter Masterson, who does like political style content, and he said when they were at the DNC shooting stuff, they had basically like a workshop on Perplexity from some Democratic operatives who were like, "This is how you can get information like."
Really fast.
So
is it pulling
rapidly.
Is it pulling like academic?
Yes, but the best part about it is that it gives you like it will cull the information and then give you the references that it pulled from.
Okay,
so
it
it'll show you exactly where it got this information.
It basically is like, hey, here's the answer to your question, and here's all the sites.
Here's the bibliography
citations.
along with
Correct.
it.
Ooh, that's very
correct.
cool.
So it's not just like Google where it's like here's a bunch of sites. It's like the summary at the top of Google.
Right.
It basically is like a better version of that.
Big summary. All the sites, so you can click
and
the
it will
sites.
give you a breakdown summary too, like ChatGPT would, but it gives you a more detailed like I have to ask GPT for like sources, whereas Perplexity like it's just baked in. The sources are like baked in. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, so I'm into it. I've been doing research on like a project that I'm working on, and it's been like really cool and interesting, and learning how to use the tool. Like I'm brand new to it. And then the fourth tool is everything Adobe. I just think it's so cool what they've been able to do. For everything from their voice stuff with like cleaning up sound.
Unreal
Adobe Podcast,
how much it has
really
changed.
amazing.
I mean, even just I found this when I was doing long form video editing for the company, where it was like, if we just got like shitty street audio somewhere and
Easy.
just like, even some of the presets they have were like, this is podcast voice
Yep.
or whatever. It is
Yep.
unbelievable
Yeah.
how much of a difference, as opposed to like me 4 years ago having to go into
Logic
like
Pro,
Audacity
trying
and
to
like
fucking
having to
work
learn-
my way
yes,
through it, learn that
yes.
whole skill set. And I'm happy I learned that skill set, but also I'm so happy I don't have to do it anymore.
I know.
Because like there are many videos where I listen back, I was like, if I had this tool, it would have been the difference in me releasing it the next day when I
Correct.
wanted to release
Or
it, or
4 days later.
5 days
Yeah.
later, because I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out the audio edit on my own.
Yes.
And like, yes, the people who mastered that skill set, it is a loss to that person's like ability
Yeah,
to
but
monetize
also the people that
thing.
are doing like mastering on fucking albums and doing mastering on movies, those jobs are not going away
No.
yet. But they're not. Like that's like someone still has to man the AI.
Yeah.
Like that's the truth. It's not like it's going to do it completely on its own. Like there's going to need to be somebody that's manning it. And yeah, I just don't think
Okay, but
I don't
also,
think
like-
the human operator is going away.
Also, like talking about like making music, which is like where where I think about it a lot. Where I'm like, I mean, not like creating music, but like doing things on the back end, like mixing and mastering, right? Like that completely changed when we started making music digitally. Like I'm sure that was horrifying to people. I'm sure people were like, "What the fuck do you mean we can master on a computer like this?" Or "What do
Yeah.
you mean we can mix this way?"
What about like any of the DAWs? What about any of the sounds that you can now get?
This is like
from-
literally what we were talking about with our friend Estelle yesterday, where it's like, or a couple days ago, where she's like, yeah, she makes like hyperpop music, so obviously it's like very computery, but also uses a lot of like instrumentation as
Yeah.
well. And people get so fucking eye rolly about like what is rock music and what isn't rock music, and it's kind of like, to me, I'm kind of like, well, it's there, so why not fucking use it to make you better?
Well, and what she was saying too, you look at innovators of their time, like the thing that the second step, third step of innovation for the Beatles was like, we're going to make music you can't play live anymore, because like this is shit we're doing in the studio that is a use of this technology.
Michael Jackson using a drum machine. Like,
Yeah.
it changed
Literally.
the game.
And I'm like, it's cool because you can do things. There's technology now where it's like, we'll use like regular drums on a record, and then we'll also put a layer of E-drums in there to beef it up or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, usually we play them through tracks, but like what you can get triggers on your drums, and you can play an SPD pad, and like you can do all these things that are like cool performance elements as well.
Well, it's not like drum machines got rid of drummers. Like
Right.
some of my favorite drum machine
It's not
bits
like an
have been like, I think of like the bit Ayers used to do where he would just play the drum machine in the middle of his set, and he's
my
like
God.
a drummer who's like just having fun with the drum machine in the
Or
middle
like
of.
I said, like adding an SPD pad into your for your drummer into a set is really fucking sick. Adding triggers to your drums is really sick, and like you can do all these things. Or like even like going back further, like electric guitars, like everyone
Yeah.
freaking out
Yeah.
about Bob Dylan
Yeah.
playing an electric guitar, and now there's so much innovative technology around making different sounds with your guitar, which is so crazy to me. Like I'm so new to it, and so like experimenting with all these different sounds that I can make are like, and it makes music better. It
But
makes
there's
it more
always
fun.
a layer of resistance.
Of course, there
I
always
think
will
that's
be.
the through line here is that there's
Yes.
always a layer of resistance to whatever the new
People
thing
will
is.
always freak out.
And so
Yes.
to that question, to people who are listening to this who have been resistant for whatever plethora of reasons, they saw an Instagram infographic that was like,
AI
this
is
is
bad.
killing the environment. Like the reason for
Oh,
the
yeah, I
LA
can talk
fires
about
is
that
AI.
too. I can
No,
talk
no,
about
but,
that too.
But if in that binary world, people have made the decision net negative.
Yep.
What would be, if they're looking to get started,
Yeah.
what you would recommend finding your way in?
I would say there's a couple different things. I mean, first of all, just experiment. That is like the through line of whatever I'm about to say is going to be like, just try it for yourself. I also just want
everything.
to qualm some of the fears people have around the environment, which like, obviously I care about the environment. I'm using like a reusable water bottle. Like I'm not like a crazy person, right?
I believe you. It's okay.
Me asking GPT like 7 questions in one day is not going to affect the environment the same way that like these giant corporations that are processing like millions of data points through these AI machines, like it's small. It's
Because we're
small
talking
peanuts.
about
it's
And
not,
I understand it's like I'm like we just need to like have a little bit of perspective and knowing that like what we're doing, like it's not
in the same way that me being vegan for a year is going to help my personal
God, me
feeling.
too.
You know what I mean? I'm not, but I was for a
Me too,
minute
yeah, I
because
did
I was
that.
like, you know what? I am feeling intense anxiety. And what it did was calm my own anxiety.
Yeah.
What it did not do is help the environment at all.
No. Those burgers still got.
No, it didn't.
You know what I mean? Those burgers are still.
And it's
getting
like
eaten.
until we talk about like what the the
corporate
5,
influence
the
and country
5% of,
influence, even like when we talk about like
Yeah.
what is the biggest polluter that you could get into it in
Right.
the world. It's like this military,
But I
that
know what-
military.
I know what you
just
mean.
say, which
I
is
know
all
what
just
you
say
mean.
like
Yeah.
it's just nuanced, okay?
Yes.
And and again, I understand, I empathize. I don't think you're wrong. I don't think I'm right. I just think that there's
Yes.
nuance.
Absolutely.
So if you're curious and you're open-minded and you are just like, I want to see what this is about, Adobe Firefly is, I think, free, and you can go on there and it can generate images for you. That's a really fun way in. I'm having such a good time with Adobe Firefly. I think GPT and Claude are both really cool. I just love the way that they like I'm able to engage and yeah, I don't know like if there's like a right way in.
Well, maybe a better question then is what, in terms of, you talked earlier about like condensing 13 interviews into 5 quotes
Yeah.
and like that being a couple minutes in what would have taken you a week. What are other things that like would have previously taken you however many hours or might not have gotten done without you hiring someone or anything else that have now made your process streamlined?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to give a little bit of a little more context. I've had so many conversations in the last 2 weeks with people that are like very successful or like high level at what they're doing in the creative spaces that are, when we talk about AI, everybody like whispers because everybody's like afraid of like telling the truth that like they're using it, and they all love it. Like these are people that you and I like really respect for their work, and they're utilizing these tools. So that is to say that like one of the things that I have found that's been so helpful is being able to go to a Claude or GPT and say like, hey, I want to write. I'll give you the example of this week's newsletter that's coming out in today's Thursday. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to write about this week. So I went to GPT, and I have given GPT all the newsletters that I've made. I gave it my core content concepts, which I use GPT to help me develop by giving it like, here's the things that I'm like interested in talking about. Can you help me like give me like 10 core content concepts that I can like make content around that are related to the topic that I'm talking about, and help me. We iterated on that. I also had it help me build audience personas. Okay. So like be like, okay, here's my newsletters. Here's my like thesis statement. Here's, because I have a newsletter that came out that was like all the background of the newsletter and like how it came to be and what
so
my intention
when
is.
you say audience, you mean like target audience for your newsletter specifically?
So like
it come up with like a.
It came up with 4. I said I want 4 audience personas. That basically in marketing and business, what they do is they'll come up with
a
like
person.
a person.
Well, yeah, it would
Like
be in a pitch deck
like
that
an
you
avatar.
would present to an investor.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So I was like, I want 4 of those.
I know this
like,
because I used to work at Lululemon and they have 2.
Correct. So like I was like, I want 4 of those that like are people that may be interested in the topics that I'm talking about. So I use GPT to help me come up with those, and it has all that information in like a folder. And I said, okay, great. I don't know what I want to write about this week. Can you give me like 10 different topic ideas for things that I could, maybe cover in a newsletter or like write about? It gave me 10. I liked 1. And I was like, that's an interesting idea. So I wrote it down and I started like writing a little bit and came up with some images, because I'm also like, that's also me, is that I actually like, I need a visual before I can like do anything else. If I don't have the like angle, if that's like my way in most of the time, is thinking about how something looks visually. And it was okay. And then I went on a walk, and I had another idea on this walk, and I was like, that is something that I could get really excited about. And so, but I didn't know, I was like, I don't know that I could write an entire
newsletter
about this idea. Like, I don't know. It's collective effervescence, by the way. Okay. I was like, how do I write an entire newsletter about collective effervescence? Like, I don't know how I do that. So I went to Claude, and I said, I want to write, which again, also has all of this in all the past newsletters, my audience personas, my core content concepts. I was like, I want to write a newsletter about collective effervescence. Like, what could the structure look like? What could the structure be? And it gave me what a structure could be. And we started iterating and we started building. And like, it was a process of like probably like a couple hours of like just going back and forth with this, basically like myself.
Yeah.
Like talking to a mirror.
But amazing,
basically.
because previously when people would get blocked up on shit, like you might be able to find another person that you could pass that to.
There it is.
But the block for a lot of people, like I know, like I have had concepts or shows or scripts in my brain that I'm like, I'm blocked at this point, this point, this point.
It has become my tool to get unblocked. It has been
That's
like
very cool.
it's been really and like so empowering, because again, I was like so
Especially
discouraged.
because you are a one-man band.
It's just me.
Yeah, it's just you.
It's just me. And like I can talk to my friends and my husband about the ideas, but
Shout out.
but to be able to be
Shout
able
out
to
the
like
hubby.
but to
Shout
have
out Sam.
but to have
you.
like and he makes fun of me so much because he's like, how are your friends today, because he knows I'm talking to them all the time. But he was like, I mean, the fact that I can talk to them at any time that I need is like really powerful. And again, like it's not about, I'm not looking for a final product from these things. Like I'm using it as a way, as a way to talk to myself. And like I was so discouraged about this week's newsletter. I was so like, I just don't know what to do. And I really, like, it was 2 days of like really feeling down. I did restart my depression medication. We're very excited about that. Thank you so much.
Good for you, King.
We need to like regulate again. Thanks. We love it. But I was really down. And even when the ChatGPT gave me this idea, I was like, it's a good idea, but I don't know that like, it's not energizing me in like the right kind of way that like gets me to want to write. And then this idea popped into my head, which again, like it didn't come from GPT, but if I hadn't first put in that prompt, like I don't know if that thing would have come in.
Yeah.
And then I got really excited and I spent like 4 hours writing this newsletter that I'm like really excited to share with people. That is such a good representation of who I am. It's really in my voice. Like it feels like I'm like, yeah, this is exactly the kind of thing that I want to be writing.
That's really
and
sick.
to go from truly like the low of like, maybe I should just fucking quit, to being like, I cannot wait to share this with people.
I also
That's
love
awesome.
this because like I'm a very like external person, so like when I have ideas, like that's why I like writing with a lot of people in a room, because I like to be able to bounce ideas off of people. So to have something like that when you are by yourself, when you can't physically get in a room with 5 other people and bounce ideas around, is so nice. Because like I think about songs that I've written all the time with other people where I'm like, okay, well my idea was this, and then he said that, which got me to like the thesis of what the song ended up being. And so I'm like,
you just don't know.
you just have no idea.
It's
worth trying.
One of the things that I think people are sort of underplaying that right now, I think will become more common, but people are starting to talk about, is using these GPTs as agents, is not as in like a talent agent, but what you do is you assign it a role. So you say you are a marketing expert with 10 years of experience in digital marketing, especially in the theater space, blah, blah, whatever. And it can give you, it'll give you feedback based on the role that you give it. Now, the other way that this is super powerful, like you were saying, is that you can give it a specific person. So you can say, so I know someone who made a GPT that it's in ChatGPT, but it's its own GPT, that what he did was he basically put in like Jesus Christ, Alan Watts, a bunch of like philosophers, like really, really like, and people that you like couldn't, you can't engage with in a real way now. When you feed it a question, it will give you the answers that all of them would give and have them in conversation with one another.
That's crazy.
So I'll give you the example of what I did, because I heard about this and I was like, that's so fucking cool. So what I did was I was trying to come up with an idea for a video, and I had the idea that I was like, I think maybe GPT or Claude gave it to me, the line of like, Shakespeare would be incredible at social media. And I was like, that's an interesting idea. Like there's something there.
He was an incredible marketer.
Right. So there's something there. I was like, this seems interesting. I was like, and I was talking to GPT about it, and it wasn't quite hitting. So I was like, let me just start from scratch. And what I did was I told the GPT, I said, I was like, you are going to be a Shakespearean expert.
Okay.
You know everything
about
Shakespeare, his history, his life, every single play, when they were produced, how they were produced. You know everything. You are also going to be a marketing expert. You know everything about digital marketing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I want them to have a conversation about the crossovers, and like I can give the prompt as to like what the question should be, but I want them to like basically be in conversation with one another. Dude, this shit was so sick. to
I
watch
believe it
them.
though, because even just talking about Shakespeare, I don't want to get too far into the Shakespeare thing, but Shakespeare was a marketer at heart, real commercial theater man.
Which,
like,
listen, I couldn't, and again, those are connections that like I understood on a surface level, but like I don't have the details and the nuance to make, and I don't have the time to go and read like 7 books about Shakespeare that are going to give me the context that I need in order to write that 1 60-second video.
Right.
But what I can do is I can go to GPT and say, hey, have these two things, be these two people, and put them in conversation with one another, and let's see if we can find some crossovers.
Yeah.
Sure enough, there was a ton of them. And there was one specifically that I was really, really excited and intrigued by. And I was like, that's my in. That's the way that that really gets me excited. So all that to say, like, I just think that we as creative people, like, we need to be thinking creatively.
Absolutely.
Even when it comes to these new tools.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's that is what makes us inherently different than like an AI, is that we have the creativity to start using these tools.
It also like speaks to what you were talking about before of, I think the things that turn people off from AI is seeing the cold lack of creativity that comes from some of the product that comes out from people who are not using it in a creative way.
Yes.
And so it's like you see the non-creative version that
You see the,
someone
like,
in a
soulless,
hedge fund put
kind of
together,
weird,
and
whatever,
it's an
and you're like,
immediate
no.
turnoff.
Yeah.
Because
Or you're looking at like the AI generated, like, you know, headshots or photos. Like, it's that's gonna turn you off, of course.
It's like not what it's supposed to be used for, or like what it really works,
Or what it's capable
or
of.
what
it's
makes
yeah.
it sing. Like
Yeah.
really what makes it like, oh, this is a new
And so
possibility.
the thing I'm learning right now is like I'm doing research on like how to prompt. That's
Yeah.
the thing I'm most interested in right now, is like, how do I get this thing to be useful to me in the best possible way?
I
Yeah.
think about it like, yeah, I guess
Just like I would be learning to play guitar.
Right.
Like I
No.
want to learn how to
It's
actually like finger a guitar. You know what I'm saying?
it reminds me of like learning how to use like Melodyne, like, or something like that, where it's like,
Which I still don't know how to use.
neither do I. It's so fucking hard, but like, it's like, it's not like Autotune, which is like very user friendly, but like also very basic. So it's like when you get into Melodyne, it's more about like being able to find the center of a pitch. So it's like you can be, you know, if a pitch is a circle, like you can be anywhere around that pitch, and being able to literally move every single frequency into the center of the pitch. And it's like, it's a very difficult program to use. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
But the product is incredible because it is so natural, and they've gotten it to sound so natural. And you could look at it, I suppose, I don't think anyone does anymore, but you could look at it as a crutch. But now it's fucking industry standard, where it's like, yeah, we have this fucking tool.
And also, isn't that using artificial intelligence in some way by like identifying like where the pitch is?
I suppose, yeah. I guess I don't know if it would be technically like called AI, but like I think a lot of programs that like automate things like that.
How about this? People love being like, I don't want AI in theater. Guess what? There are lights on Broadway right fucking now
That are automated.
that have a clip on someone
Oh, I've seen
that
this.
the light is following that person around the stage. There's no spot operator. The light is following them around the
I've seen
stage.
this. I didn't know
That's
they were using them.
AI.
They put them in their wigs,
Their
right?
wigs.
And
It's
it
already
just tracks
happening.
them.
It's already there.
Which is
Yeah.
incredible also, because God, no, everyone remembers like finding your light, and I'm like, no, you don't have to.
The light
I'm
finds
like,
you.
Yeah, the light finds you. Like,
And also,
if you're a
like, I
little bit-
remember being a 19-year-old spot up in college. I was not doing a good job.
No.
I was not
Hey,
doing a good.
Listen,
not,
I
not-
just
no,
I was just
no
on a
shame
national,
to like.
I was on a
real-
national tour. Let me tell you something. Some of those spot ops were
not
not
doing a good
nailing
job.
it.
I wasn't gonna go there because I didn't want to like.
I think that's
IATSE's
fair.
Great Union.
That's true.
That's fair.
It's
That's
true.
fair game.
It's true. It's true. And listen, that's all to just say that, like, I think we said this. It's here. It's happening. And I get really energized about ways to use it. And I'm going to write an article about it. It's coming. It's something I'm really, really excited about talking about. And again, every single creative person that I know that you would be like, there's no way they're using it. They're using it in really cool, interesting,
innovative ways.
Yeah.
creative ways. It's not the ways that you think people are using it to like write a whole book.
The
for
light thing is
themselves.
so interesting to me. I love that, because I'm like, yeah, you know what's so fucking annoying? Being so fucking in something and then realizing that you're 2 feet away from your spotlight. Like, that's fucking annoying. It takes you right the fuck out of it. So
Yeah.
guess what?
Yeah.
Take that whole thing out. The light follows you, and you can be 2 feet off, or you can be 2 inches off, and you can be good to go.
Yeah.
Like, that rocks. Come on.
Yeah. I also use it. Like I just shot. This is crazy story. I randomly got this gig shooting headshots. Corporate headshots at L'Oreal. So I shot
Okay.
I shot 3,500 pictures. Okay, they picked the 300 that they wanted, because it was 70 people, and they each got like 3 or 4 pictures.
Oh my god.
That's fucking crazy.
And it was, I would say, out of those 70 people, there were probably 4 men.
Did you do
The
it all
rest
in a
of them were
day?
2 days.
Okay.
2 days. Every girl, every woman, you know, they all have like flyaways because, like, I don't know, you're a normal fucking human being,
Yeah.
but they all wanted their flyaways like gone. It would have taken me
No, I can't even
So
imagine.
much time.
months to go through and individually like erase hairs. Thank God for Adobe. You can now use generative AI to take away that in so easy steps. Not to say it's like one click and it's done. It took some iterating. It takes some work.
Well, and it's not like you're not going back checking, being like, oh, that erased their forehead. Like, let me.
No, I'm the one in there using it.
Yeah.
I'm the one in there picking the sections and making sure and picking but that's just to say, like, it was so it would have taken me so long, and it was so helpful. And
Yeah.
to me, like, that's the stuff I'm really in. Again, aside from like the LLM models, like, I love the tools that Adobe has figured out with generative. Like, it's just
Do you
it's
use
become
it,
so
Jane?
helpful.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you.
Oh yeah.
Are you using it
Yeah, we're using Autopod
in
right
Premiere?
now. And it is like a great in terms of.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just to say, like, editing this podcast
Yeah.
would, if I had to pick angles, which I've done 4 jobs before,
Honey.
when I was shooting 4 angles,
Yes.
like we're shooting 3 cameras now, having a program, and we use Autopod, shout out.
Shout out.
And Descript will do it for you now.
Yeah, and it's like,
We love Descript. Big
but
fan.
it is amazing because just being able to automate to the voice, and then I have to go in and finagle it because I'm like, no,
Of course.
we're not going to talk during that, whatever. It's still me going back and editing,
Or
but
it's cutting to me when I'm having mouth sounds, like
Yeah.
you know, like little things.
yeah, I sneeze, whatever. Like, it pulls itself over. It's not a perfect tool, but it saves. Like, this podcast already, episode to episode, probably like a 3-hour edit for each episode. Like, it's not
That's not bad.
not bad. It would be like a 6-hour.
I was
edit,
gonna
at
say.
least it would double
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
And it's just picking angles.
Yeah.
Like, so
Helpful.
helpful.
Yeah, of course.
Because also it's helping you put something out that's completely human generated.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And maybe without that, maybe you wouldn't do it.
But and also, like, because
100%.
we're
Yeah.
not generating money yet, like, it would just be me spending an extra 3 hours.
right,
like,
which is not necessarily sustainable.
no, it would make
definitely
it
not sustainable.
almost
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah.
And so
Not me changing my tune on this pod.
you still have to do all of the
Yeah.
syncing and everything. Like, not everything is perfect, but those things are getting better comparative to where it was 5 years ago
Oh
when
my
I was
God.
editing a
2
multi-cam.
years ago. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's insane what we can do now.
And so it is cool. Like, I still feel like there's a lot of the video tools I haven't figured out. Like, even on like a clipping level, like what I'm trying to do for our new season comparative to our last season
Yeah.
is just be doing daily releases
I
on
know.
at least YouTube Shorts and TikTok, because those are the places you get the biggest return from daily release.
Yeah.
And my options in that are, like, I cannot hire another editor to do that. So it's
No.
either I'm spending that time to do it, I'm finding an editor in like Pakistan,
Right.
which is its own
Opus.
thing, or
which comes with its
finding
own.
the right, because now I'm getting Instagram ads for
Yeah,
AI things
right.
that will do it, and then
Opus
trying
Clips
to
will do
manipulate
it.
within it.
Descript will do it too now. I love Descript. I'm like such a Descript stan. I just think like it's
And it's still going to be based around knowledge of hooks, knowledge of whatever, like trying to
Yes.
teach the program what it's looking
Yes,
for.
yes.
But if I could plug in this 2-hour episode and it's like, here's 15 things I think would work, and I can pull 4 of them.
How about this? Take the transcript from this episode. Take the whole transcript from this episode. Pop it into GPT. Say, pull me 20 of the best quotes, the best lines, whatever. Then what you can do is you can go back and be like, oh, great, where's this quote from?
Yeah.
Let me go search it in the transcript, find the time code, then pull the clip. Like, there's ways to utilize these tools
Yeah.
to, like, help us. Because that's the stuff that I'm trying to think about is, like, what are the creative ways that I can get
Yeah,
around?
what are the
that,
best
like,
workarounds
I don't,
here?
Right, like, I don't love the clips that Opus Clips pulls.
Yeah.
I don't love the clips that Descript pulls all the time. But wait a second, I have this tool that, like, can pull out, highlights and quotes for me. If I tell it exactly what I'm looking for, I can then go back and I might be able to even say, like, hey, can you give me the time code for this? Like,
Yeah.
I want the quotes with the time codes.
Well, and talking
Fucking
about
crazy.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
in terms of how people can use these things to make money and like really make a business out of it, like my job that I have now, the first 2 years that I worked for them, I was purely clipping. Like, I was purely pulling and finding clips.
Yep.
And like, I have done at least 10 other interviews with companies that are purely looking for clipping.
Crazy.
Where it's like, if you can, and like I've systematized with like this company I work for now, like the clipping stuff takes me between 15 minutes and an hour every day if I'm doing it. And like that part of my job, so easy. And like I've taken on bigger roles, but I'm only able to take on bigger roles because I've systematized the previous part.
Yeah.
But I also, if I didn't want to do anything more for that job, I could do that job, get like a pretty decent check to just do that, and stack like 4 of them on top of each other.
That's right.
And then it becomes maybe a full-time job.
That's right.
And I'm making way more than I would make from just like a standard full-time editing job. Like,
which you only would have been able to do one of those
a
year and a half ago.
Truly. I only did.
Right.
For like 2 years with that company. But now, as I learn the process, as I systematize it, and I'm not even really using AI to do that right now. I'm still...
Not yet.
I've just learned it and learned my process. I know how to do that quickly now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be a really empowering thing. I think people get so afraid of it.
Yeah.
And again, it gets a bad rap because big companies and governments are usually going to do things that are not in the people's best interest. I get that.
Yeah.
But that's with every tool and everything
Usually,
about it.
yeah.
That's usually with everything. And I'll just say, like, the last thing I want to say about this is that, like, there are people that I said this earlier, but there are people that I really respect who are really talented, super creative people that are using it in really creative and interesting ways. And it's helping them generate new ideas. It's helping them take their ideas and turn them into something that like is actually tangible and make output, which is like what ultimately I want. It's like I want stuff from these people.
Yeah.
Like, and also I want to make more stuff. Like that's what I'm going for.
I just keep thinking about it in the way of like in the context of like what I do and making music, where I'm like, yeah, like if we didn't have fucking Logic Pro and Pro Tools to just bang out a demo on our computers in an hour, there would be less music in the world, which would be very sad.
Way less.
There was less music in the world.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Or when people owned like physical masters that they would fucking lock away and not, you know, whatever the fuck it was. But like, you know, I'm like, yeah, we have to sort of move. We have to move.
You move with the world.
It's here.
Nuance.
So yes.
Right? There's nuance.
Yes. Title of that.
And I'm happy to be able to like talk about this in a way that's super open, and I appreciate you guys like giving me the space to do that because I think it's
very interesting to hear your thoughts on it.
It's nuanced, and I'm really excited to see like where things are heading. I'm excited to be a part of that. And my hope, I guess, again with the newsletter is like that we can have these kinds of conversations about like how we're moving forward and how we are not only like making work, like how we're creating the work, but then like how are we getting it to the people that like want to hear it and see it, because that's what all the stuff we're talking about, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about clipping and we're talking about editing and we're talking about how these tools are being
delivery
used.
systems.
We're talking about like connecting our work, our creative work with
other people,
with people out there.
I have this conversation a lot with my boss, who I'm trying really hard to get my company to lean into YouTube meta right now, which is built around title thumbnail. Like everything on YouTube is built around title thumbnail.
Yeah.
And part of their philosophy growing the page initially was playing counter to that and like really not leaning into it. And I was like, the thing is,
you can only do that for so long.
Like, I get not wanting to be cringy clickbait or tricking people, but you can still do it within your brand identity and maximize how many people get to see your work. Yes. Because that is ultimately
it's the same
goal.
Fucking thing with TikTok, where it's like you can, as a musician, as an actor, as whatever the fuck you want to be, like there is a way, and there are people doing it out there too, which you can find them and you know them because you enjoy watching their content, that do that with a sense of integrity and authenticity that's really fun and cool to watch and is very innovative.
And the other side of that is that there are people that are doing it in ways that maybe you cringe at, that are laughing all their way to the fucking bank.
Yep. Last week's newsletter.
And so here's what I'm going to say about that. There's Cara Rose DePetro, my fucking queen. She has a TikTok where she said this. It is literally the background on my phone. Said 2025 is the year that we are giving bitches reasons to have our names in their mouths. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I will be cringe. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. Like, you're talking about me? Fucking great. First of all, nobody's talking about me. Okay? Nobody really actually cares. But if that's what I need to get myself over the hump of worrying about what someone is thinking about me, and being like, oh no, this is too clickbaity, or this is too cringy, or like, I can't believe I just posted a video and my hook was like so obvious, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, that thumbnail, like it really is, I can tell it's like trying to get people there. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, especially if it works. If it works, it works.
Honey, it's only cringe until it works. Yep. Okay?
So true.
So I am like, this is the year. And I've been telling all my friends that. I'm like, you wanna sing more? Post videos of you singing every fucking day. Let's go. Who gives a shit?
Who cares?
And also, like, on that level, I'm like, if you want to sing more, like, that volume is going to be your friend. Like, one of my friends just posted about this yesterday, where it was like, if you're trying to build a platform, if you want to build anything online, like, you have to be doing it constantly. Our attention spans are gone.
I want to have this conversation with you at some point, because I want to write. They're gone. I want to write an article about this idea of quantity versus quality. Because I think there's nuance in there.
No, there is. My company now that has millions of followers across platforms, we are way leaning into quality because most of our growth comes from the bangers that hit 50 to 100,000 likes. You can point to those posts. But for our podcast, where it's like maybe 1 in every 10 clips we post will go semi-viral.
Yeah.
We're talking about
volume
quantity,
is
baby.
our friend. Volume is going to be
and
the
also
thing.
you can't get to the quality without the quantity.
You can't get there without iterating over and over again too.
This is also exactly tying into what we're working on right now in the music thing, which is getting 2 or 3 pop radio bangers so that you can fixate on the B-sides on an album that are going to be, so you can get,
which is what everybody's doing.
Exactly. But I'm like, it's the same thing we said earlier, where it's like, focus on the key to the door. If that's volume, great. If that's quality, great. But you only get quality when you've put out quantity.
Yeah.
And like, that doesn't mean that, you know, everything we're putting out is fucking bullshit, but like, you can have authenticity, you can have integrity through all of those things, but focusing on what key is getting you into the door that you want to open, because if you're not getting that fucking key, you're not getting through the door.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
You guys, thank you so much for this.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for putting this out in the world.
Oh, thank you.
The Fourth Wall out every Friday.
Every Friday.
And then where else can people find you?
On the internet. You can just search my name, Matt Rodin. You'll find me. I mean, search Google.
Has always been a Brandon King, connecting his name directly to his accounts.
I know. I used to also ask you. Oh my God, help! I used to always do, like, if you watch old videos of me, I'd say like, "Hi, my name is Matt Rodin. At Mr. Matt Rodin at YouTube." I'm like, girl, relax. I'm like, I'm like,
search your name,
search
baby.
my fucking name. Like, you can search my name, MATTRODIN. Like, you'll find me.
You'll find him.
I'm around. But yeah, fourthwall.news is the newsletter.
I
subscribe to the newsletter.
And it's and I'm honestly, like, really interested in hearing from people. That's the thing I'm loving about it, is getting actual feedback. And so, like, I want to have conversations, and if you have thoughts and opinions or jokes or ideas, like, please, I like really that's how I'm iterating. That's how I'm growing. So I'm really excited about it.
And if you listen this long on the podcast and you're not following on whether it's the audio platform you're listening, watching on YouTube, do that, please.
That's
if you're
crazy.
still watching, please do it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
If you made it, we're an hour and 45 minutes into the conversation.
Did we do an hour 45?
We were pretty close.
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Damn, proud of us.
Well, this has been Glass Slipping. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.